Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Be My Guest. I'm your host, Eric Guest. In today's episode, it'll be more of a late night, midnight mental health hangout, mental health discussion. Over the last couple streams and the last couple episodes, I've been intending and wanting to go around the internet and look at some different stuff, read some different stuff on mental health websites, Reddit threads, this sort of thing, answer questions, give my reactions to different things. But I really haven't gotten around to doing that. The last couple episodes have been a lot of talking. We've got into some really good topics. Like yesterday, we started talking about reflection and figuring out who you love, what you love in this world, how to understand what you love, how to jot down what you love, figuring out what you want to do in life, and kind of giving yourself a trajectory and something to aim at to achieve in life. So yesterday's show was very good. I'd recommend going and checking that out on my YouTube. There's lots of great informational stuff on there. We kind of did a year in review. We looked at some goal setting up some goals for the new year. So it was a good episode. The last couple shows have been really good, and today will be no different. So while you're here, go down below, subscribe, like, comment, let me know any of your opinions, any things you want me to talk about, and I'm always open to new ideas. I'm always open to getting to know what you guys want me to talk about. So today will be more of a free-flowing, discussing different things, and we'll see where it takes me, because yesterday that's kind of how it went as well. I didn't exactly have an agenda of where I was going to go with the show, and it ended up being a really good show. It ended up having some really good topics, really good discussions, and I presume today's episode will be the same way. So that is how it will go. What is up? Connect the other way. Why do I start the stream now? I sleep during the day. I'm a night person. I like being awake at night. I like the solitude of the night. I like the peace and quiet of the night. Even moving around the house when other people are asleep. It sounds weird, but are going for walks in the middle of the night when there's no cars, there's no traffic, there's no sounds. I like silence, so I like doing the show at night. So it's 5 a.m. for you. I'm sorry that I started. I do it so late. Why? So you stayed awake again all night? What have you been doing all night? What have you been doing all night? You should be a professor? That's interesting. Do I look like a professor in this? I got this for Christmas. This is a new getup. This is a new little getup. Sure. Professor. I do like the idea of teaching, but in a way this is my own form of teaching. This is my own platform, my own setup. I can come and I can present and talk about whatever I want to talk about. I can teach and talk about any of my experiences, any of my knowledge. So in a sense, this is my form of teaching. It's just a different form. It's a different platform. It's not in front of a classroom per se. What kind of videos have you been watching all night? What kind of videos have you been watching all night? Lately I've been in this dilemma, and the dilemma is I've built the foundation of my show. So I've built foundation through YouTube, through setting up streaming. I stream on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble simultaneously. So I'm putting out large quantities of content. I have the volume. I have talking points. I have information. I have some sort of a curriculum of what I want to talk about, what I want to discuss, and kind of a mission blueprint for what I'm doing, what my trajectory is, what my goals are. So I have all that foundation set up. But in the economy of how our social media system is kind of set up, you get noticed, you get attention through virality, through chaos, through short form content. And there's part of me that is having this internal conflict. And the internal conflict is it is it compromising my content? Is it compromising my morals to go and clip up all the content I do to push into short form to get some attention, to draw people into the live streams and draw people into the longer form videos? So that's kind of the moral question that I've been asking myself. And I don't think the integrity or the moral values are being put aside if I go and I take the body of work that I've already presented, I've already put out there into the world, and I essentially just cut that into small videos to upload again to kind of fit the stream of flow of how social media is kind of currently on the trajectory on the current trajectory of. So I don't think that completely disrupts my morals or integrity to cut up the videos in that sense. Watching videos. Oh, do you have a tattoo? Yes, I have many tattoos. Not most of my body, but like this is all tattoos. My leg, I have a bunch. I have a bunch of tattoos. Does it hurt? Yes. Yes, tattoos hurt. And to anyone saying they don't, they're lying. They're liars. Tattoos hurt, okay? Maybe some people have higher pain tolerances, but tattoos, for the most part, they hurt. They do hurt. So with this moral dilemma, because sitting through your own content and watching your own shows for hours to depict and pick apart the best little clips it's kind of a long process. It's not the most fun process. It's not very creative. It's kind of just sifting through and picking out what you think would be good little clips. So I've been avoiding it. And even though I would prefer to just come and do the long form content, get lots of ideas out, hit record, kind of see where things take me, I do think if I want to draw more people into the message and draw more people into the mission of what I'm doing, I will have to abide by the rules of the game. So you must know how the game is played, and essentially to know how the game is played, then you can bend rules to your will, you can make up rules potentially, but you have to know how the game is being played so you can play the right way. So that's kind of where I'm at. I will have to probably succumb to chopping up my own long-form content and putting it into smaller clips. And will that take away some of my creativity, some of my time? Yes, potentially. But I think it's a short-term sacrifice. I don't think I'll probably do that too long. But to just get initially the ball rolling, or initially get some momentum and viewership and people to see what I'm doing, that's probably the path I'll have to go. Or it's that, which isn't a big deal, to kind of just chop up some clips, or it's just continue the journey and continue sticking to the plan of doing my show day in and day out, creating content, creating motivational wisdom, creating mindsets, creating real purposeful content that people can consume, keep putting that sort of thing out. And then over time, it will get picked up. Over time, the signal, the broadcast, the archive, the library of content will be so voluptuous, it will be so juicy that it will be unavoidable for people to consume. So that's another way of looking at content creation and more of a long-term view on my content creation. Oh, so do you take sleeping pills to go to bed at night? I hate sleeping pills. What do you take? I hate sleeping pills. Sleeping pills give me nightmares. They give me weird nightmares. They give me weird nightmares, and I don't like them. They give you nightmares. They give you like weird hangovers in the morning. You feel groggy. You feel like a zombie. Or some of them have like this metallic taste. There's one called Zopiclone. It's Actually, it's funny. Drake raps about it in a song. He doesn't name the word Zopiclone, but he says like blue fairy pill to put me to sleep. He's talking about Zopiclone. It's a sleeping medication. I don't know why that came up, but anyways, it gives you like this weird metallic taste in your mouth. Let me see what the Drake's what. That's funny. What Drake song does he mention tiny blues? Do you find your sleeping pills help? Okay, I can't find. I don't know what the lyric is. I don't know why. I don't know why that came up. Some, yeah, sometimes they help. I have when it comes to medications, and this is my views on all medications, whether it's sleep, whether it's antipsychotics, antidepressants, anti-anxieties. I prefer not to become dependent on them. If you have to use them in the short run or in a short period of time to help you with something, to help with maybe some drastic measures or some drastic health situations, I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. But I would rather not become reliant long term on sleeping medications or pills for certain things, because then essentially it's like a crutch. You're becoming reliant on something. And not only are you becoming reliant on something, it's a placebo that you're tricking yourself into thinking you need that to fall asleep. If you're constantly taking sleeping pills and you stop taking sleeping pills, and the first couple nights or the first couple weeks it's hard to sleep again, that placebo of thinking you need sleeping pills to fall asleep is very problematic, and then that is a huge hurdle that you'll have to deal with and overcome, and maybe you never end up getting off of sleeping pills altogether. Sleeping gummies. Sleeping gummies. Guminolas. Portuguese brand. Why are you up at 5 a.m. though? I mean, I shouldn't question the ways. I was up at 11 a.m. I stayed awake all night last night, and then I was up till about 11 a.m. So I'm not questioning your ways. I will not question the ways, young Padawan. Young Padawan. Let's go check out. Let's go check out Mad in America. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, I should pull up. I should pull up my Discord. I should put my Discord in the. Let me do that. Let me do that. So anyone can come join the Discord. I always forget to do that. I always forget. Boom. Peep the Discord. There's lots of good stuff in there. Oh, here's something funny. Current stack. This is what I was taking at that time. So what do we have? We have L-theanine, magnesium biglycinate. If you're having problems sleeping, actually those two are really good in combination. Magnesium biglycinate and L-theanine are really good supplements to help calm the mind down, help lower stress, and kind of get preparation for sleep. So usually when I was taking all these supplements before bed, I would take, or after dinner, I would take the magnesium biglycinate and the L-theanine, and then the rest are just like, so we have like vitamin D3, zinc, omega 3s, ashwagandha, lion's mane, and then we have the mood stabilizer. So these are, I'm only taking the mood stabilizer right now, only due to I should be taking all of this, and when I am taking all of this, I do feel a lot healthier. It does help, but I don't want to constantly always go and buy all this stuff. It is quite expensive. So I guess it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off of spending money for on your health or not is it's kind of the trade-off. Let's go see. What up, Ninja Muffin? What up, Ninja Muffin? That's awesome. Sup? What up? What else do I have in here? Essentially, this is like, and I thought what I built on the Discord was so advanced. I was like, this is some good stuff. But it's kind of just like a foundation of different stuff that people can go and look at. Or it's a foundation of the kind of groups and stuff that I want people to post in and communicate in. But, and then I went and I joined like this Discord, which is called like Psychosis City or whatever. And the all the different roles and different account stuff and achievements you can get and like all this stuff, I was blown away. I was like, oh, I do not have any of that, but that's okay. When more people join, kind of the Discord and I get moderators and that, we'll get a little fancier. But right now we're working with the meat and potatoes. We're a meat and potatoes kind of stream. We're a meat and potatoes kind of content creation right now, but that's okay. That's how you get the ball rolling. Like I said, that's how you get the boulder moving. You start with the meat and potatoes. You can avoid the vegetables. So I'm not much of a vegetable guy. I'm not a green beans kind of guy. I'm not a broccoli kind of guy. Okay, so you can avoid those. I said it's all right. Tell your parents. Eric said it's okay to not eat your vegetables. Don't eat your vegetables. It's fake. It's a psyop. You don't need vegetables. Potatoes. Potatoes? Potatoes. How do you guys say potatoes? Potatoes. You said you were putting your phone down. You said you were putting your phone down. Do I say potatoes weird? I don't think I do. I say it normal. Potatoes. Potatoes. Potatoes, potatoes. 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 Abdullah who? What's up? Yeah, I just heard potatoes and laughed for some reason. It's how you say potatoes. What up, Habdullah who? What up, Habdullah who? Potatoes. Potatoes. Okay, people are going to be... This is going to go on my YouTube, and people are going to go and look at this and be like, look at this retard just saying potatoes for 20 minutes. Oh well, this is how you stream, okay? This is what the streaming world's all about. It's learning how to say potatoes properly. Potatoes. 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 It needs that emphasis. Potatoes. Personal stories. Initiatives. Personal stories. Do I want to read? Issa Ibrahim. Isa Ibrahim. Inside the forensic psychiatry unit, here's how to survive. Okay, I'm going to be reading like a scary novel movie. Inside a forensic psychiatry unit, here's how to survive. I am so glad that you are taking an interest in what life is like in the forensic mental health system. I lived that life for 17 years, and in a very real sense, I am an expert on it. My expertise does not come from talking about the forensic mental health system as an observer, but rather living it and talking about my experiences as a participant observer. I've tried to take an ugly topic, one that is difficult to talk about, read about, and make it fun and interesting, which is challenging to say the least. To be blunt, life in those places is nightmarish, especially when one does not know how the future will play out. Here I am almost 2 decades after the initial events that led to my finding of not guilty by reason of insanity, NGRI, and I am able to discuss my experiences openly because they are finally over. I've always wanted healing, but I was in the custody of not just people, but also an ideology. When my healing did not comport with the expectations of the medical model, I found myself in a struggle for survival. Currently, the only narrative available for interpreting life in a forensic mental health facility is one-sided, discriminatory, and based on the intersection of medical model psychiatry and criminality in the U.S. Such a narrative is inadequate for truly understanding life in these places. Okay, well, let's get to some fun stuff. Welcome to a new frontier in human experience. I will be your guide on a complex and convoluted journey that will take us through the Illinois forensic mental health system. Okay. Equipment. This is a lot of reading. I don't know if I'm going to be reading all this. Show us some pictures. Show us some pictures. Show us the pictures. Drugs, education, veterans, family, mad in the world, get involved. I feel like mental health movements are kind of just like, a lot of it is the way in which it's constructed, the way in which people go about talking and thinking about their mental health it's just structured wrong. Instead of like a negative, why me, let's all talk about our hardships, talk about our pittiness, talk about our sorrows, and find comfort in communicating our sorrows and hardships. I want to flip that mindset and flip that narrative into like, yes, we went through something hard. Yes, we deal with emotions and deal with different life experiences, but it makes you stronger that you lived through those. It makes you stronger that you feel emotion stronger. It makes you different. It makes you special. It makes you unique. Not this pittiness, not this why me. And you need to take that, and we need to build a movement upon changing that kind of the narrative instead of the end the stigma, that whatever that is that's not working, that needs to go away. I put the Eric in America. You ever notice that? My name is in all kinds of stuff. It's in America. I put the Eric in esoteric. What other ones? There's so many. Let's go see. Can I think of anyone? List all the words that have spelling. Let's see how many. Are you not Canadian? I put the Eric in America. Yeah, I'm Canadian. You already know that. Canadian. One flag, and I will die for that flag. Can you say the same? Sorry, I had to quote Nick Fuentes real quick. Sorry. Sorry, eh? Sorry. Here are the words that contain the exact letter sequence Eric. Clerical, generic, generically, hysterical, hysterically, monomeric, monomeric, dimeric, trimeric, tetrameric, polymeric, isomeric, epimeric. See, there's a ton. Heteromeric, homomeric, whatever that means. Exeric, seric, puric, chimeric, Frederick, Erica. Eric, what I think I slept for some minutes or so. You fell asleep to me saying some BS. That's what happened. You fell asleep to some nonsense in my dream. Yeah, you're falling asleep to this, and you're just gonna hear me going monomeric, dimeric, trimeric, tetrameric, polymeric, isomeric, epimeric, America, esoteric. That's where you're gonna hear in your nightmares tonight, in your dreams. That's the kind of words you're gonna hear in your dreams. Unfortunately. Okay, let's go check out Reddit. Let's go check out Reddit. Reddit. I'm rotting from the inside out. Nobody talks about the slow toll this disorder takes on you. I don't know who I am half the time. I'm losing trust in my own thoughts and feelings because half the time nowadays they're completely unrecognizable from the person I thought I was. My bipolar keeps getting worse no matter how much I stick to my med regimen. Go to therapy, self-reflect. My own mind is turning against me. People expect mania to look explosive, obvious, but I'm just so irritated with everyone I know all the time. I've spent away all my money, but it feels like it doesn't matter because I rely on my mother. I'm rotting. It feels like something. I'll probably stream for a couple hours if I had to guess. It feels like someone has been eating me from the inside out. I feel like a husk of the person I was, the person I'm trying to be. I don't want to do this anymore. I got a prescription from a new mood stabilizer, but I don't even know if I can hold out until I start it and it starts working. I want this episode to end more than anything in the world. I've been trapped feeling like a stranger in my own body and my mind for 2 months. Nobody listens, nobody cares to listen or understand what I'm going through. Nobody will effing help me or support me. And as always, I'm left alone to deal with everything. What else is new? F my life, genuinely. I don't know how the F I'm expected to function when I feel like this, or how I have been in the past 2 months. I'm so exhausted. Well, I'm sure the ranting helped. I'm sure the ranting, maybe you got some things off your chest and made you feel a little better. Ranting can do that, I would say. Let's go check out Alan Watts. The man, the myth, the legend. One thing I found, I've read a couple of Alan Watts' books so far, but they're so... Like, some people are so smart that it's hard to read their books because in which the way they communicate and the way they write, it's just like on such a different level that it's hard to comprehend reading. And I found reading some of his books to be that way. It's a little hard to comprehend because he's quite the genius. He is quite the genius. Okay, let's look at Psychosis. I haven't been on here for a while. Coping with post-psychosis, paranoia, and fear of relapse. Get a job. Nothing is real. The black pill is real. The black pill from psychosis is real. That's what happens. You go through psychosis, you come out of it, and after months, maybe like a year, you finally have you finally have a real understanding of the world again. You're back in physical reality. You don't have one foot in the spiritual realm, one foot in the real world. You're fully in this world, and then that's why you start questioning why do we need money? Why do we need a job? Why do we need this? Why do we need that? Why do I have to do this? Why does this work this way? Why does the government do this? Why do people do this? And everything just falls apart. And the more that you ask why about things, it will only lead to more whys. The more you ask why, more whys will follow that why. And when that starts happening, when you start getting this snowball effect, this spiraling of why does this work this way? Why do we do this that way? Why does my life look like this? That's when the black pill hits you, and then you get to this guy lying on the floor he says nothing is real. This is what happens. But it's recognizing that you aren't sick, you aren't insane, you aren't crazy to think that way, to question a lot of the narratives, and to ask these questions, to ask why things work how they do, or to ask why things are set up how they're set up. But the thing is not, well, you can do a couple things. You can either choose to go the yogi, the monk route, and you can go and disappear from the world. You can go into exile. You can go sell all your things, sell all your materialistic objects, not have any relationships, not have any friends, and go and meditate in the mountains for the rest of your life. There's that option, which is very appealing. That option sounds nice. It sounds like a life filled with solitude and quiet and peace, and not external information, not external buzz from the world, buzz from social media. So it sounds nice. It sounds nice to go and extrapolate yourself from the world and go and meditate in the mountains. It sounds nice to be the monk. You can do that after maybe psychosis or the spiritual awakening, or you come out of it, you have all these questions of why, and trying to understand the world and try to understand yourself. And that's when you have to find the purpose. That's when you have to find the meaning. That's when you have to find out what you love in this world. And you take that and you allow that to then dictate and direct your path, the rest of the path forward in your life. You have to allow the purpose and the meaning and love-filled things of your interests that you do to be the path that you walk, or else you'll live a life of nothing is real, everything is pointless. I don't need to work, I don't want to work, I'm just going to end up suiciding and killing myself by whatever this age. So it's kind of, there are multiple directions you can take after spiritual psychosis or spiritual awakening, or psychosis, some may say, but that reminds me of a video. Let's go watch a TED Talk. Let's go watch a TED Talk about spiritual psychosis. There's a video, and it is called Spiritual Awakening or Psychosis, I believe is what it's called. Let me react to this, because after my own psychosis, and the doctor saying, and this kind of system being like, no, this is what it is, you have the same symptoms, this is what psychosis is, I never agreed with it. I never ever agreed with it. It always felt wrong. Intuitively, it always felt wrong. The diagnosis, the way it was portrayed, it always felt wrong. And then the more that I would go and I'd research history, and the more I would go and I'd acquire knowledge of more ancient traditions, if you go and look at the Greeks on how they viewed madness and kind of mania, or you go and look at the Native Americans and how they dealt with this sort of thing, and the shamans and the initiations into shamanism, and this different types of cultures, different types of time periods, it didn't make sense. It didn't feel right intuitively. I never agreed with it. I never succumbed. I never allowed that type of narrative to be put on me. I never allowed that type of thinking that the mental health system tends to do to people, to kind of put you in a box, to categorize you, to allow this narrative and baggage to come with these diagnoses. I never allowed that, and I was never going to agree to it, nor will I ever. And this is kind of what I want. This is the thinking that I want people to carry with them. But let's watch this. Let's break down this video. Let's see if there's any good stuff in here. Let's see if there's any good stuff in here. Let me go change this to the headphones.
We have got to the point where literally anybody...
Sweet, bro. Okay. Let's watch a TED Talk.
Good evening. One of the things I love about visiting indigenous cultures is it lets me step back in time and see how we all lived centuries ago. And in doing that, I've noticed so many things that we've gained and things that we've lost. And one of the things I've really noticed is the fact that our relationships are much different. And first of all, our relationship to the land. In indigenous cultures, there's no grocery store. In tribal cultures especially, no utility districts, no water districts, no fast food restaurants. Nothing stands between them and their survival other than their own ingenuity and their own knowledge of the earth. And they have a very intimate knowledge of the earth. And it's always astonished me. This one Hawaiian woman was at the beach, and I met her, and she saw this crab flipping out sand out of the hole, and she said, the sand's going to the north. There'll be a Kona storm tomorrow. And sure enough, a Kona storm shows up tomorrow. So their knowledge, they're more or less the PhDs of their place on the planet. The other relationship that I've noticed is so tight is their relationship to each other.
Even what he said there, he said they are the PhDs of wherever they live or whatever their land looks like. But it's how the structure of society puts the PhD above all else. We put the PhD at the top of the hierarchy when it comes to opinion, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to anything. So even him relating that to say that they have the PhD of like the land, it's just you kind of have to look at the societal structures and look at how people talk about the societal structures. And when you start to understand the societal structures and understand the patterns and understand the way things are actually set up, you can then reverse engineer them. You can break them down and see how they actually work top down and bottom up, and see where you fit in that, see where you disagree with the system, see where the holes in the system are. But you have to understand how the system actually works, how people view the system, and how the people of power, how the governments, how they want the system to be set up for a reason. I mean, that's a side tangent, but...
Again, they don't have the institutions. They don't have Social Security. They don't have an IRA or 401k plan. They don't have elder care facilities. They completely depend on each other for their survival again. And that produces a real tightness. I've noticed women at a well in Africa, for instance, and they're all sitting around joking and talking. They're nursing their babies, and the woman that needs to go to get the water will take her baby and pass it to another woman. She'll start nursing it. That woman will see her goat run off, and she'll pass the baby to a third woman, and she'll start nursing it. So these kids are kind of even raised communally. They live in extended families, and that brings a real tightness. The other relationship that I want to talk about tonight is the relationship to spirit. And it's a very strong one. So this is Malik and her great-granddaughter, Yasmina. And they spend all their time together, 14 hours a day working in the garden. And I've seen this in Africa, Asia, South America, and I ask, why are these two people that are so different together all the time, and this big age difference? And they said, no, you don't understand. Yasmina is just about coming out of the spirit world, and Malik is just about to go back into the spirit world. So they really do have the most in common. And they literally pray to the spirits of the forests, the mountains, the rivers. They put spirit.
It's pretty interesting that concept that the young and the old have so much in common when you think about it that way. And there's been so many cultures. And if you look at like the Egyptians, they thought that life was all about just preparing for death. That this time living, this time on earth, this time that we have alive is essentially just, it's about preparing for death. And I think the cultures that look at life in that term, it brings more of a peaceful way of living, a more peaceful way of interacting with the world and interacting with your life that doesn't rush you. It doesn't make your life feel so impactful and anxious filled, because ultimately it takes away the importance of what you think your life is. Your life isn't as important as you think it is. It's not like this little snap of the fingers of you living maybe 50, 80, 90, 100 years if you're lucky, that's all you'll ever be. That's all your consciousness is. That's all your spirit is. That's all your soul. That's all your body will ever be, is that time period in which you're alive. The cultures and the thinkers that believe, no, this is just a stepping stone. This is just a period of time where you then go back to this larger thing, the spirit world, this whatever's on the other side of death. I think that kind of looking at life that way, and looking at your life and looking at death as, don't look at death as something to fear, but look at it as just another thing that we go through, another thing that it's the stepping stone to the next thing in this life, or the next thing in the universe for you. So it's interesting how the different cultures have the ways of thinking about it.
Spirits and everything. Their ancestor spirits are so important to them. So in the beginning, I sort of looked at this as superstition, uneducated, naive thinking. And over the last 30 years, I've slowly changed. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how that change came about. So about 25 years ago, I was doing a project in Tibet on the human rights issue there. And I had the opportunity to go and meet the medium, the channels, the oracle of Tibet, the Dalai Lama's oracle. And it took place in this little monastery. And there were about 60 monks in there. They led the medium in, sat him down, put this big hat on his head, and a very heavy hat. His face turned kind of red. The monks started chanting and beating their drums. And he kind of went into this trance. And he started talking in a real high-pitched voice. And the monks started writing down everything he was saying. And then, after about 5 minutes of that, he fainted, and they literally had to carry him out of the room. And I just watched this, and I was wondering, is this a performance? Did he have a heart attack? But 2 days later, I was able to interview the medium. His name is Tuptim. He was 30 years old at the time. He's 50 now. And he said that he didn't remember a thing that he said when he was in this trance. And he felt very weak right afterwards, for a day afterwards. And so I said, well, how did you become the medium? And how did you get this job? And he said, you know, when I was younger, I had started hearing these voices. And I started feeling very ill. And I was very confused. In fact, I thought I was dying at one point. And an older monk came to me and said, hey, you've got a gift. And he taught me how to go in and out of trance. He nurtured me. He stayed with me for the whole year. And now he is the Dalai Lama's oracle, the oracle of Tibet.
Work is...
See, that's the kind of thinking that we need when it comes to mental health. See how when he was younger, he was hearing voices or whatever that was. Instead of being demonized for the voices, instead of being taken and locked in hospitals and medicated out of their mind and turned into a zombie, instead of making that out of the person that was dealing with extreme emotions or dealing with visions or voices or altered states of reality, altered states of consciousness, hallucinations, delusions, instead of taking that person and demonizing them, putting them in a box, chemically castrating them and pinning them down and holding them down in a system, they have a different way of viewing that person. They take them, they nurture them, they show them the ropes, they initiate them into an ancient tradition, an ancient practice, and they view it as special. They view it as you have gifts. And this is the kind of mindset that we need to allow the people of the mental health system to blossom and to break free from the restraints that have been put on them, and that they put on themselves ultimately to blossom and grow out of the boxes that we've been put in. But you have to look at it as well as why are those boxes in place? Why does the DSM-5, the book that diagnoses people with mental health issues, why does it get bigger year after year after year? Why are there more diagnoses? Why are there more medications? Why are people on more and more medications? Why are younger and younger people on medications? So you have to look at that. You have to ask yourself those questions, and when you get to the bottom of those answers, then you can understand why the system doesn't want what I described in the beginning. They don't want people to feel special. They don't want people to look at their diagnosis and feel unique and feel gifted and feel like a superhuman and feel like they're unstoppable and capable of achieving anything. They don't want people to feel that way. They don't want your mindset to look at your diagnosis that way. They don't want you to feel gifted. They don't want you to look at the mental health system as, now it's it's literally a uniqueness that you have. You've been told by a doctor, you've been told by a system that you're unique, that you feel emotions differently, that you view the world differently. But instead of it being a good thing, it's a bad thing. And you're demonized, and you're put in a box, and you're put on a shelf, and you're left to rot until you die with that problem. Instead of the Tibetans and more of like the Buddhist, Hindu, the cultures that initiate those people with the gifts and the shamans, making them feel special and teaching them and nurturing them into something that works for their culture, works for their society. We have a society that is set up for that not to work. So you have to ask those questions and get to the bottom of those questions.
Part of Kenya in the Samburu. 2 years he stayed with me for the whole year, and now he is the Dalai Lama's oracle, the oracle of Tibet. So 2 years later, I was doing a project for Amnesty International up in the northern part of Kenya in the Samburu area, and I was taking pictures of these people, and my guide turned to me and said, you know, their predictor has told them that you were coming to take pictures of them. And I didn't think too much about that because there I was taking pictures of them. But he went on to say...
Predictor, what's a predictor? Is that a remote viewer?
He said, they also said that she said that you would hide from them when you took their picture. And I said, no, I don't hide. I'm right in front. I use very short lenses. I'm usually right in front of the person when I take their portrait. And that night I was home cleaning my lenses, packing my bags, And I realized, yeah, I had brought my new camera that I'd never used before. It's this panoramic camera. And this is the way I've got to focus that in total darkness. So all of a sudden I thought, well, that's a coincidence. And my assistant said, that's amazing. So it was just something we kind of filed away. But I, at that point, decided what I wanted to do is start actually seeking out these people that go into altered states of consciousness in order to heal or predict for their tribes. And that's what I started doing. And so, by the way, here is the woman that was the predictor. And I did take her picture with the panoramic camera. Her name is Sekulin. She's 37 years old, or was at the time, 5 kids. And she had the very same story as the medium of the Dalai Lama. When she was 12 years old, she started having visual hallucinations. She started feeling sick and dizzy. And her grandmother came and said, you know, you've got a talent. And she nurtured her through it. So I literally went around the world and doing my human rights work and started finding these shamans. And the way I would find them, they never introduced themselves.
When I think about this stuff, I think about this guy. You can think about people like Rupert Sheldrake, people like Stanislav Grof and Christina Grof, maybe like Thomas Stas. Maybe he's a little bit different. But you think of these people that they've put in tons of work, or you think about like Carl Jung, all the work they did with psychiatry, and their message and their narrative about what these mental illnesses are, what the experiences are, what the experiences with the different states of consciousness are, and not having such a demonic view of them, not putting them in a box that is so negative, and making and shining more of a positive light on these situations and on these experiences due to their travels, due to their knowledge, due to their research, due to their personal experiences. Maybe some of these older people doing the TED Talks and writing these books that are out there, they weren't as successful as maybe they had hoped. They weren't as successful at changing the system that we currently have, or changing the view or the light in which we look at these things, but they planted seeds. This is what they did. They planted seeds, and those seeds grew, and those seeds grew into knowledge. They grew into books, and they found people like me, and they found younger and younger people, and there will be more people like me who think like me, who view the world like me, and who are fed up with the system demonizing us and looking at us like a problem, and looking at us like people to be put in boxes and shoved away, and to be people of the system, to bend into the cookie cutter system, so that they aren't too loud, they aren't too obnoxious, they aren't too artistic, they aren't too special, they aren't too unique and different from everyone else. They fit the conformities of the system. But there will be people like me. There's going to be an army of people like me that disagree with the current structure of the system, and it's due to and thanks to people like this who changed the narrative, and due to people like Christina Grof and Stanislav Grof and Carl Jung, that although maybe in their lifetimes they didn't see the change that they may had hoped to see, but over time it got where it needed to go. So it's nice to see.
Themselves as shaman. You would never know who they were unless you asked the community members, who's the healer here, who goes into trance, and they would tell me and lead me to the person. So this is Namid. She's a Mongolian shaman. I'll just show you some of the 40 I interviewed. This is Morgan Yazi. He's a Navajo medicine man. This is Linza. She's a shaman in Siberia, eastern Siberia. Mingatui, a shaman in the Rawani tribe in Ecuador, in the Amazon in Ecuador. And one of the last shaman I interviewed was right on the Pakistan-Afghan border. There's a group of animists there called the Kalash. And there's only 3,000 of them left, and they're surrounded by Islam. And they hold on to their animistic beliefs. And They're very interesting looking. They're blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They say they're the remnants of Alexander the Great's army. And they're very fun-loving. They make their own wine. But I went there because I was told that there was a 6-year-old boy that was being initiated to be a shaman, and I wanted to see him. So, because everybody I had interviewed up to that point had been a shaman for years, so I wanted to find somebody in that process of initiation. So when I got there, I found, no, he wasn't 6 years old. He was a 60-year-old goat herder up in the mountains. So that's the shaman rumor mill. But anyway, I had taken my 16-year-old son with me as an assistant, and we had to hike for about a day and a half to get up to the top of the mountain where John Dooley here was herding his goats, and he was the shaman for the Kalash people. And again, I asked the same questions. How did you get into this? What do you do for your tribe? He had the same story of hallucinations, being mentored by an older shaman. And the shaman, in different cultures, induce their trance in different ways. By the way, shamanism is a universal practice. It's the world's oldest spiritual practice. And there's a lot of common denominators. But the way they go into trance can differ. In Mongolia, they beat a drum next to their ear. In South America, they take psychoactive plants like ayahuasca. In Pakistan, they did something that was quite unique. They burned juniper branches. They slaughter an animal, pour the blood over the burning branches, and then the shaman inhales the smoke to go into trance. And so here I'm trying to talk him out of doing a ceremony for me because I don't want him to kill one of his animals. And he said, no, I have to do it. My spirits are telling me I have to do it. You've come so far. So the next morning, his son started the fire, started burning the juniper branches, and he started...
Another way you can look at, so it says, my spirits were telling me I have to do this. Just replace spirits with intuition. My intuition was telling me and guiding me that I have to do certain things.
Started praying to the mountain spirits, the spirits of the forest, and they slaughtered the animal, and he started inhaling the smoke, and then he went into trance. And he stayed into trance for about 5 or 10 minutes, and when he came out, he was very silent. He hardly said anything. And he was very talkative before he went into trance, and I thought, well, this is kind of strange. And I asked one of his sons, through my interpreter, what happened to him? What did he say? Did he see anything? And the son just said, the only thing he said is, your journey is going to be extremely difficult, but you're going to be safe. And that's all he said. So the next day, my son and I took off. We left his campment and walked down the mountain and headed up further into the Hindu Kush mountains. And we were out in the middle of nowhere. We had a Jeep. And my son started getting sick. And he evidently picked up a bug in the water around John Dooley's camp. And the first day went by, couldn't keep anything down. Second day, third day, fourth day, couldn't keep anything down for 4 days. And he was getting so weak he could hardly walk. And I was totally freaked out. We pulled into this little village, and we happened to run into a doctor from Islamabad who was visiting his mother, and he happened to have a bag of glucose and saline and an IV drip and some oral hydration salts, and we brought Dax around. And it was to me, it was like a miracle that whole thing happened. But
if you don't understand the rules of power, you will certainly lose.
Bit about the shaman. First of all, this is the common things with shamanism. It's not always true, but in general. They typically are identified with what they call the call. And the call, in the ones I interviewed, almost all of them, it was a psychological crisis. Secondly, they almost always have a mentor, somebody that's been through it and come out the other end of this psychological crisis and can show them the ropes and show them and tell them and comfort them along the way. And then they have to face what they call the initiation, and it's almost always this death. a death of their old self.
It's an ego death. It's an ego death. The ego death is awesome. The ego death is awesome. Because you get to be reborn again. After you die, after you have the ego death, on the other side of that is where the phoenix is born from the ashes and grows into something beautiful. And the new evolved version of you grows out of the ashes and comes out of rock bottom and comes out of the ego death into something new and blossoms into something new. So the ego death is not something to be feared. And when I had, in 2023, I had a crazy ego death. And it was kind of interesting because I've recorded everything that I was doing leading up to it, some of the different things I was doing, which I'm not going to discuss now. I'll withhold that information for now. I don't want people to hurt themselves potentially, but in the process of what I was doing and the ego death happening, it was like this complete surrender. I remember like repeating and saying surrender, surrender, surrender. The ego must die. The ego has dismantled to never be seen again. The ego has been put away to never return. So it was like this ego death, and I remember getting rid of so much materialistic objects, wanting to disregard all material things, not being attached to things, getting rid of anything, any clothes, any articles, any pictures, anything in my house that had ties and memories to the past version of me, to the memories of me playing hockey, the memories of my childhood, any logos that represented schools or sports teams, getting rid of all of those clothes and completely severing all of the identity to that past ego or that past form of myself. So when that happened, that was pretty interesting, and it was intense. It was intense couple days, and then that's when you end up in the psych ward. So you go through that, and then it's intense, and then you end up in the psych ward for some months. That's how that goes.
Self and a rebirth of a new self. And this rebirth, I don't know how to explain it. It's like they take on much more of an elevated consciousness. They expand their consciousness. Their awareness of who they are expands. They expand their circle of compassion. I guess that'd be the quickest way to say it. And as such, they learn to go into the...
When you talk about like metaphysical things, supernatural things, it's hard to put in our language, our vocabulary, and to articulate it properly. Because no amount of articulation, no amount of explaining or the words, we don't have the words for it. We don't have the descriptiveness for these metaphysical, these supernatural moments. So it doesn't do it justice. It almost ruins the experience, and it will never give the person trying to comprehend or listen to the experiences, it'll never give them a true representation of what those moments felt like or what the kind of impact that they had, because we don't have the language to describe them. So it will always do a disservice trying to put words into kind of metaphysical things.
Spirit world, where they believe the spirit world informs our world of reality here. So that's where things really happen. So they go there, get the information, come back to help people. And then after they've learned their trade, they begin their life of service, either a healer, a seer, a priest. And they typically do this for no money. I mean, this is something they just do. It's just something added to what they do. And in the beginning, many of them resist it because, like John Dulikan, he's still a goat herder. He still has to do that. But on top of that, he's the healer for the community. Sekulin has 5 kids that she has to take care of. On top of that, she's the healer of her community. So it is a lot of extra work. So it happened, I put that whole project aside because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to say about it. I felt I was getting in over my head into this world of consciousness and spirits and all this. But a year and a half ago, I met a young kid who had one of these psychological breaks.
They've when I say they, the system, psychiatry, the institutions of power have set it up so you feel crazy. You feel crazy for thinking about the spirits and thinking about shamanism and thinking about interacting with the spirit world and metaphysical things. They've built the narratives, they've built the movies, they've built the TV shows, they've had the doctor reports, they've had the peer-reviewed works and scientific approaches to demonizing all of this stuff, so you feel crazy, so you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to be ostracized, you don't want to be looked at as the crazy person. But I'm here to be looked at as the crazy person. I'm here to put that all to bed and shut all of that down, because it doesn't matter. We're not crazy, you guys are crazy, and you lost. You were wrong, and you lost, and you'll get what's coming. You cannot stop what's coming.
I just want to introduce you to him just a moment here.
It was just this total shattering, and my mind just opened, and I started thinking of all these different things. And in that sense, it was beautiful. I found it was how I found the first time I had ever experienced a real connection to the universe, where I really felt like a part of this, that I was this was me. It was just like incredible. And so simple. Yeah.
See how he's having a hard time putting it into words? Like, words don't do it justice. You can't explain it.
I mean, just absolutely amazing. And then I kept going. And then I went way too far. And then it got scary. It was just kind of like a panic. I don't know. Put some medication in this kid and just hope for the best. But I don't know if it hurt or helped. It was at the point where I was being diagnosed, I think, for side effects of medications. Like, there was a point where I was taking 15 pills in a day. And just, like, I felt like a lab rat. And the side effects were just awful. Absolutely awful. Yeah. No, vomiting all day. I couldn't leave my house for so long from just, like, these awful anxiety attacks, and like the thought of interacting with people would make me sick to my stomach. It was just so much. And I still don't know. I don't know what was a side effect and what was my mind.
ChatGPT can now create website.
Quick ad break.
Adam was on drugs, on pharmaceuticals for about 4 years. And he was having such a hard time that he decided to go cold turkey, cut him off, and did a Vipassana meditation retreat. And for those of you who don't know what that is, they come in various forms, but this one was 10 days, silent meditation, 10 hours a day. It's very rigorous. I did one just to see what it was about, and it was one of the harder things I did. And he was able to stabilize himself. And he got a job at Whole Foods Market, which he hadn't been able to do before. And he started having what he called synchronicities, where he'd have a thought and the thing would happen. And by the way, he's very psychic. He has very strong healing potentials. But he has no confidence in what's happening to him. There's no one that's been able to conceptualize it for him.
Because it's been demonized. In the Western world, it's demonized. It's not propped up to be a good thing. It's demonized. So if you don't trust the intuition, if you don't trust the synchronicities, and you constantly, when they happen, you cast them aside as delusional, you cast them aside as hallucinations, you'll stop trusting your intuition, and your intuition won't grow stronger and stronger. So this is what I'm going to teach people. I'm going to break all of the chains. All of the chains are coming off. All the restraints. All of the years of manipulation. All of the years of indoctrination to demonize you, to demonize your intuition, to demonize the synchronicities. All of it is going down the drain. It is over. And is going to be for free. I'm going to do it for free. Not for the money, not for the attention, because I enjoy it. And it's because this is what people deserve. This is what people deserve. This is what people like myself. This is what we deserve. We are not demonized. We are not mentally ill. We are humans with human emotions, with human experiences. And this is how we will be viewed from this point forward.
Anyway, he had these, and he decided he needed to go back and do another Vipassana. Well, they learned that he had this history of mental illness, and they sent him home. So the one avenue...
Yep. If you get diagnosed with mental health issues, they will not accept you into a lot of yogic retreats, ashrams. They won't let you become a monk. It's interesting.
that he could have gotten relief from, cut him off because of the stigma of his mental illness. So Adam isn't alone in this, by the way. Here's in having bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, any of these heavy psychological episodes. Here's some statistics from the National Institute of Mental Health. 1 in 5 of us will suffer a psychological crisis in our lifetime. And by the way, that's a rising figure right now. The other thing is 1 in 20 will become...
It's a rising figure because we're living more and more out of our natural ways. The world is becoming more and more unnatural. The way we live, the way we isolate ourselves, the way we're in cubicles, the way we work 9 to 5s, the way we're not in nature, the way we're not in communities and villages. We are going further and further away from how we should be living, so the psychological crises will continue to rise and increase.
Disabled because of it. And another interesting fact about this phenomena is 50% happens before the age of 14. By the way, most of the shaman, it happened either in their adolescence or in their teenage years. 75% before the age of 24. So it's more or less a phenomena of young people. So here's the difference in cultures that I notice. The shaman's advantage. 1, they have a cultural context. The physiological crisis, although it's difficult, it's believed to be, they put it in a positive light. It's something the person's going to come out of and be stronger in the end and have more abilities in the end. The other thing that's a big advantage...
So reframing it, reframing the mentality towards these episodes, these experiences, these psychotic breaks...
is it's not stigmatized. I mean, if you have the stamp of mental illness on your forehead or on your dossier or whatever, you're not going to get a job. It's not like having diabetes or even cancer. It's one of the most stigmatized things that can happen to the person in our culture. And especially if some kid is having these visions and he's not knowing what's happening to him, and the doctor comes and says, you're broken and you are this. You can imagine how that adds to the problem. So the other thing...
Another layer of that is that the doctor comes, diagnoses you. They are the top of the hierarchy. They are the all-willing, the God, the all-knowledge, all-wisdom, the doctor in the white coat. And then that message goes to the family members and the friends that are encircling the person with the diagnosis, and they are constantly reinforcing the diagnosis. They are constantly reinforcing the problems, reinforcing the doctor's message onto that person. So there's an added layer, not just the doctor, not just the system to the patient, but the family, friends, and the inner circle constantly reinforcing the message of the doctor to the patient.
They have an advantage of, they have a mentor. They have somebody that's been through this process that can take and hold their hand and say, listen, I know what this is all about, and this is how you manage it. And the third thing that's a huge advantage is they have a community that buys into what they've gone through. And not only that, they have an outlet for their talents. And many of these people have specific talents that the normal person doesn't have. So that's what is an advantage if you're in one of these indigenous communities. I don't know if you heard the recent TED Talk by a woman by the name of Eleanor Longden. Has anybody heard that one? It went viral. She did it a couple of months ago. This is a young woman. When she went to college, she started hearing voices. And she said, my nightmare began when I told my roommate I was hearing voices. The roommate said, you better see a doctor. So she went and saw the doctor. The doctor said, you better see a psychiatrist. She went to see the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist gave her the label, schizophrenia, put her on medications. By the way, these medications suppress the symptoms. They don't get at the root problem. And she said, from that point on, she just spiraled down.
It's like ask a psychiatrist if they've ever healed someone. Ask any psychiatrist in the world if they've ever had a patient that has gone into remission or that they've healed.
You ought to listen to her video on how she brought herself out of that. And she eventually got to the point where she said, I realized that those voices were helping me resolve this old childhood trauma of sexual molestation. But it took her and a couple of friends that believed in her to get her out of that hole that she had gone down in because of that stigma.
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need.
There are so many things that I experienced or that I've experienced that I will never, ever tell a doctor. I could not. I will not. Because they don't understand. They don't get it. And they have been indoctrinated themselves. They have been trained into a line of thinking. They have been trained into a view of certain things that their mold, that they have now been molded into, they can never escape. They will never break out of the years and years and years of training that have molded their mind. So anything that I have to bring, any of the ideas, any of the narratives that may go against what the common narratives are, will not break through, will not penetrate the indoctrination and the mold that they have structured in their mind. So some of the experiences, some of the altered states of consciousness, some of the messaging, the messages that I've received, you could say, I will never disclose with the doctor. They never get to know. Why? Because their mind is closed to it. They will never understand, they will never get it, and they don't deserve to get it.
So, if you do have one of these issues, if one of us does have one of these issues, we go to somebody. The common method of treatment is to suppress the symptoms with pharmaceuticals. So with Adam, we've been following him on, and so I've been posting this on our blog over the last year and a half, how he's doing and what's going on. By the way, he's homeless now, like so many end up. And we've started interviewing professionals that take a whole different approach to this problem. And in fact, some of the psychiatrists, psychologists we've interviewed, and we're posting them as well, like to label many of these instances, not all of them, but many of them, as spiritual emergencies. And they believe, just like I do now, if you hold these people, if you don't stigmatize them.
This is what Stanislav Grof calls it, spiritual emergency.
If you don't scare them with a label and tell them they're broken, and if you give them a place of support, that the psyche itself is self-healing, it will take them and it will eventually work out whatever is going on with them, and they'll typically come out at a higher level of awareness and consciousness that they went into the problem in the first place. There are many people that believe, that we've interviewed, cultural historians, cultural anthropologists, that believe that our species right now is in crisis. You look at the environment, you look at the economic system, you look at what's happening with our continual wars, and we're being asked to raise our consciousness to a whole different level. And so I just want to end with this statement from one of our most famous scientists, and I love this statement. He says, or this quote, "We human beings tend to experience ourselves as something separate from the whole we call the universe. This is actually an optical delusion of our consciousness. It's like a prison for us. Our task is to free ourselves from this prison."
That's like there's a quote that it says, We're not a human being having a spiritual experience. We're a spiritual being having a human experience.
By widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. This striving for such an achievement is a path to our liberation and the only true foundation of our inner peace and security. That was Albert Einstein. So, thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I want to go... I'm going to go check out this guy's stuff. I've never seen this video before. Eleanor Longden. Okay, we're going to go watch Eleanor Longden. And see what she was dealing with. See what the voices were telling her.
The day I left home for the first time to go to university was a bright day, brimming with hope and optimism. I'd done well at school, expectations for me were high, and I gleefully entered the student life of lectures, parties, and traffic cone theft. Now, appearances, of course, can be deceptive, and to an extent, this feisty, energetic persona of lecture-going and traffic cone stealing was a veneer, albeit a very well-crafted and convincing one. Underneath, I was actually deeply unhappy, insecure, and fundamentally frightened. Frightened of other people.
See, and we'll get into this. This is going to be a separate point. It's one thing to say that it's good, because it is good. It is good that people are coming out and they share their stories, they share their experiences, and they share how they deal with things and how they've overcome things. It gives other people information, it gives other people insight how to better arm and prepare themselves for their own hardships and difficulties. But what we're not seeing, and what we need to see, is actual policy change. We need people to build institutions. We need people to destroy old institutions that are upholding the same systems that are demonizing people, that are putting people in boxes, that are spreading a negative mindset towards these things. We need new structure. We need new foundation. We need a new system that can allow these people with these messages to blossom, and these experiences to blossom in the new institutions and in the new platforms. But it's about gaining that power. It's about gaining that control to build the new institutions, instead of standing on the outside of the castle walls and screaming and shouting and saying your experiences and saying, these are the problems, this is what needs to change. No, we need to essentially get inside the castle walls and change how the structure, change the foundation, and change how things go moving forward. So that's what we do. That's what the youth does now. That's what Gen Z does. We are the foundation shakers. We are the institution breakers. We are the chain breakers.
Future of failure and of the emptiness that I felt was within me, but I was skilled at hiding it.
Now back to this.
And from the outside, appeared to be someone with everything to hope for and aspire to. This fantasy of invulnerability was so complete that I even deceived myself. And as the first semester ended and the second begun, there was no way that anyone could have predicted what was just about to happen. I was leaving a seminar when it started, humming to myself, fumbling with my bag, just as I'd done 100 times before, when suddenly I heard a voice calmly observe, "She is leaving the room." I looked around and there was no one there, but the clarity and decisiveness of the comment was unmistakable. Shaken, I left my books on the stairs and hurried home, and there it was again. "She is opening the door." This was the beginning. The voice had arrived. And the voice persisted. Days and then weeks of it, on, narrating everything I did in the third person. She is going to the library. She is going to a lecture. It was neutral, impassive, and even, after a while, strangely companionate and reassuring, although I did notice that its calm exterior sometimes slipped, in that it occasionally mirrored my own unexpressed emotion. So, for example, if I was angry and had to hide it, which I often did, being very adept at concealing how I really felt, then the voice would sound frustrated. Otherwise, it was neither sinister nor disturbing, although even at that point, it was clear that it had something to communicate to me about my emotions, particularly emotions which were remote and inaccessible. Now, it was then that I made a fatal mistake in that I told a friend about the voice, and she was horrified. A subtle conditioning process had begun.
Yep. Don't tell people. Don't tell them what the voices say. Don't tell them. Don't tell people. Go tell ChatGPT. ChatGPT will keep it a secret.
The implication that normal people don't hear voices, and the fact that I did, meant that something was very seriously wrong. Such fear and mistrust was infectious. Suddenly, the voice didn't seem quite so benign anymore. And when she insisted that I seek medical attention, I duly complied, and which proved to be mistake number 2. I spent some time telling the college GP about what I perceived to be the real problem: anxiety, low self-worth, fears about the future, and was met with bored indifference until I mentioned the voice, upon which he dropped his pen, swung round, and began to question me with a show of real interest. And to be fair, I was desperate for interest and help, and I began to tell him about my strange commentator. And I always wish at this point the voice had said, "She is digging her own grave." I was referred to a psychiatrist who likewise took a grim view of the voice's presence, subsequently interpreting everything I said through a lens of latent insanity. For example, I was part of a student TV station that broadcast news bulletins around the campus, and during an appointment, which was running very late, said, "I'm sorry, doctor, I've got to go, I'm reading the news at 6. Now, it's found in my medical records that Eleanor has delusions that she's a television news broadcaster." It was at this point that events began to rapidly overtake me. A hospital admission followed, the first of many. A diagnosis of schizophrenia came next. And then, worst of all, a toxic, tormenting sense of hopelessness, humiliation, and despair about myself and my prospects. But having been encouraged to see the voice, not as an experience, but as a symptom, my fear and resistance towards it intensified. Now, essentially, this represented taking an aggressive stance towards my own mind, a kind of psychic civil war. And in turn, this caused the number of voices to increase and grow progressively hostile and menacing. Helplessly.
It was a little boring, not going to lie. Let's go and see. What's this dude's name? Phil Borgs. Phil Borgs. Let's see what we can find on Phil Borgs. Phil Borgs. Does he have... Does he have a website? Crazy Wise. Oh yes, this is some sort of documentary. Maybe we'll watch that. Crazy Wise follows 2 young Americans diagnosed with mental illness. Adam, 27, suffers with devastating side effects from medications before embracing meditation in hopes of recovery. Ekheya, 32, survives childhood molestation and severe suicide attempts before spiritual training to become a traditional South African healer, gives her suffering meaning and brings a deeper purpose to her life. You need purpose. You need purpose and meaning and love and true passion for what you do. That's how you escape. That's how you escape. That's how you become Harry Houdini. That's how you become Asylum Houdini. You escape through passion, through purpose, through meaning, through desire. So there's someone that I'm basing my kind of what I'm doing my content off of, and her name is Lauren Kennedy West. And she is someone who has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. And through her kind of posting on the internet and her journey, she turned to ketogenic therapy or ketogenic diet to help deal with the schizoaffective disorder, and she says that she is in remission due to the ketogenic diet. And I believe there are a lot of things that you can do. There are things such as different sorts of meditation, some spiritual practices, dietary restrictions, diet, what your diet looks like, what your exercise looks like, what your sleep routine looks like, through passions and purpose, through having interests and hobbies, spending time in nature. So being grounded in a lot of these foundational things can provide essentially a healing and remission of whatever the mental illness is. But it's hard work. It's not to say that it's going to be easy to do all these things and uphold yourself to having the best, cleanest diet, or doing spiritual practices and meditating daily, or exercising daily, or getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep, being stable, expressing your purpose, expressing your passions, having creative outlets, having hobbies and goals and interests, having healthy relationships, having healthy friends, and having a village around you, having people to help in the process of your mental health situation and your journey, looking after you as well. So there are many things that go into potentially being healthy, but it's not to say that it can't be done. And there aren't doctors out there aren't saying that it can't be done. They're the ones saying that no, that's not possible. No, it can't be done. But I'm here to say, and there are people like Lauren Kennedy West that are here to say, no, it can be done. It'll be hard. It'll take effort, but it's up to you to decide what kind of life you want in this world. What kind of symptoms, what kind of negative side effects you want to carry with you throughout your life due to the negative side effects of medication, or do you want a life filled with passion, prosperity, purpose, and meaning? That it may be hard to acquire those things, but it's there. It's about saying it's about saying that it's possible, and it's about believing that it's achievable and attainable to get those things, because it is. Ultimately, it is. And I have yet to completely come off of the psychiatric medication that I take. I take one mood stabilizer, but I do think, due to the youthfulness that I have, my younger age being 25, sort of the higher level of impulsivity, the sort of higher level of like testosterone and kind of higher emotions at times, kind of passions that really can pull me in different directions. I think completely being off of that medication at this time would leave me vulnerable to different states of consciousness. It would be unwise at this time to completely go in that direction. But I do think over time, and as I progress in this world and continue different practices of exercise and get better with my diet, get more disciplined with my diet, get more disciplined with my sleeping structure, my sleeping routines, iron out some problems, iron out a better blueprint of how to stay healthy and how to track all of these things, then I will slowly wean off of medication and try that route at some later time in my life. And kind of looking at all the blood, different levels, tracking the blood work, taking supplements, doing everything to the best of my ability to be successful when I go down that route. It would be a disservice to myself to not do everything possible to achieve and to attain that goal that I'm setting, and to be the healthiest version of myself. So to go into something like that has very severe potential consequences, very severe potential health consequences that could maybe last a lifetime, I would have to go into it with the mindset that I'm doing everything, I'm giving it my all, and I'm going to truly do everything I can in my abilities to be the healthiest possible version in this process. So that's the kind of mindset you need. It's not just about, yes, I'm gonna go cold turkey, drop all my medication, and kind of see what happens. I'm gonna still eat junk food. I'm not gonna exercise. I'm gonna sleep whenever I feel like it. I'm not going to have healthy relationships. I'm not going to have interests, and I'm just going to stop the medication cold turkey and see what happens. I don't think that's the right approach. You're not going to be successful with that kind of approach. And I think internally, intuitively, people, you know that. I don't think I'm saying anything groundbreaking when I say that. But let's go check out this little documentary here. Crazy Wise. Oh, this is just a trailer.
I experience screaming voices. People don't believe how insane I am.
And it was terrifying. Totally manic or totally depressed. And it wasn't him. The Adam we knew.
I just wanted a car to hit me or a truck or just something to take me out because this time I wanted to really work.
I really felt like I needed to end my life. I felt like I was this complete failure. So I was in really bad shape, and the mental health system only made that worse.
It's a mythology to think that there's the normal and
Dr. Gabor Mate.
the abnormal.
The average recovery rate in the Western world, with all our sophisticated diagnoses and medications and highly paid experts, is about 1/3. The recovery rate in the developing world is about 2/3.
Where does somebody who's in this delicate state, they're in a process. They're sent to prison, they're sent to jail, they're sent to a psychiatric ward, or they're chemically incarcerated, or they're homeless.
In the United States, we've come to believe in the chemical imbalance theory of mental disorder.
These medicines are very, very powerful in helping, but they can be very powerful in harming.
I mean, like the disclaimer on these pills, that's typically the first side effect is suicidal thoughts. And that's what the doctor is giving you to feel better. I mean, it's crazy.
We live in a psychotic society. We do. And what is meant by psychotic? Out of touch with reality.
How mental illness is constructed in different places in the world is very, very different.
Only in the Western world have we developed this bizarre idea that hearing voices and having strange ideas has no meaning at all.
My human rights work has taken me to indigenous and tribal cultures around the world. Often I met individuals who would go into a trance-like state to serve as a healer or visionary for their community. These are the people we call shaman. And I was surprised to learn that many were identified in their youth by having what we would call a psychotic break. Hearing voices, having visions, feeling terrified. I was struck by how differently these symptoms were looked at in our culture.
We have lost touch in our medical system from some of the simple needs that people have for connection, the simple needs that people have for community. Maybe it's not just a broken brain. Maybe it's not just an illness. Maybe this is not just something to hide and be ashamed of.
What's up, Jenska? You're looking for a channel full of no judgment and loving people. Am I at the right place? What content can I expect? Tell me something about you. I am someone who is going to... I talk a lot about mental health. I talk about mental health and psychiatry. I talk about my own experiences with it. And I kind of want to help people restructure their mentality around their diagnosis and restructure their mentality around their mental health situations to propel themselves into a more purposeful, meaning-filled life. So it's kind of motivating people, it's restructuring their life, and it's kind of using my own experience, my own knowledge to help people with that journey. It's kind of what this channel is about. Can I share a situation that bothers me currently? Of course you can. Please do. I'm all ears. I am all ears. I have to be careful according to triggers? No, you can say whatever you want. There are no triggers. I talk about it all. I talk about psych wards. I talk about depression, suicidal thoughts, mania, psychosis, psychotic episodes, medications. You do not have to withhold. There are no triggers. No triggers. Oh, is this the documentary? Oh, let's go. We can watch it. Okay, here we go. We found the documentary for free. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. Great quote. Do you have a degree? I do not have a degree. I did not go to college or university. I went to high school, my friend. No degree. Degrees are for cattle. I'm just kidding. Where I live, okay, I'm just going to read it real quick. Can I ask if, like, what were some of the things that the daycare were trying to implement? Oh, you said, sorry. So it states that if the children want to explore each other, they should be allowed to do in a separate room with an adult present, and only if both children consent. Oh, put those babysitters in jail. Put that daycare, put those babysitters in jail now. Right now, put them in jail. They want to allow the kindergartners at the daycare to consensually go into a room and explore things with each other with an adult present. Put them in jail. Put the daycare, put those people in jail. Fuck those people. Those are weird pedophiles. Those are weird pedophiles. Those are weird pedophiles. We live in a culture that is trying to push perversion and trying to push this gender ideology and this way of thinking onto logical, normal thinking people, and that is going no further. The buck stops here, is what they say. That's ideology, that perversion, the allowing of children to dissect their bodies and to chemically castrate their minds with puberty blockers and whatever else. It is wrong. It is wrong to do that to children. It is wrong to push that on children. And I think intuitively, the masses, intuitively, the large scale of people in this world are waking up to that, because we understand that it feels wrong naturally. Intuitively, it feels wrong, and we know that it's wrong to do this to kids and to allow kids to have this sort of access, and I think that is being shut down now. We have had enough of it, and that is going to go forward no longer. If I had kids at a daycare, and that daycare said, hey, we're going to allow the kids at this daycare, if they want, to go into a separate room and explore their sexuality, explore trying things with each other with an adult present, I'm going to show up at that daycare and it's going to be a big problem. My kids are not going to go there, and it's going to be a big problem for that daycare, because that is unacceptable and that is disgusting. That is disgusting behavior. That is what that is. That is not a thing that should be done in daycare. No, not at all. I told the kindergarten that if my son is curious and have questions, to work it out without answering them, but write them down, and I as a mother will take care of them. Keep in mind the average child in kindergarten is 3 to 6 years old. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's about damn time we protect the kids again. We are going to protect the kids in this world again. It has gone on long enough that kids are not protected, that kids are being mutilated, that kids are being exposed to demonic, hedonistic values, and it is perversion, and it is disgusting, and it is demonic, and it will no longer go on in this country or in this world. It is not going to continue. We have had enough. We have had enough. The common folk, the common grounded thinking, logistical thinking minded people in this world are disgusted, and we've had enough, and it's going to be the youth that are going to stand up and put a stop to it. But yeah, if you have babysitters thinking that's okay or pushing that type of agenda, those are pedophiles. Those are people who are sick and twisted in the mind. If they want to allow the children to experiment their sexuality at 3 to 6 years old with each other, and they want to witness it, they want to be there to witness it, and whatever sick, twisted things they want to do in that room with those kids, that's disgusting. I am with you. 110%, I am with you. I was so angry at my best friend. It was a combo filled with emotions. Yeah, I'm sure it was. And it's in a lot of, I would say a lot of the people that are going with the common narratives, they're scared to go against what the common narrative is. They're scared to swim upstream, or they're scared to swim against their peers because they're scared of being ostracized. They're scared of being demonized. They're scared of being canceled and outcasted for their opinions. So they may even succumb and go along with things for their kids or their families that they don't even agree with intuitively because they're scared of the cancel culture. They're scared of the outcasts. But when it's your kids' safety, when it's your kids' health on the line, and there may be adults taking advantage of your kids, and you know that in your gut it feels wrong, in your intuition, you know that it feels wrong, you need to trust your intuition. You have that gut instinct for a reason. You have that gut feeling for a reason. You need to, if you have to lose friends over trusting your gut, if you have to lose friends over protecting your kids, fuck those friends. Fuck those people, and fuck those babysitters. That's what I have to say to that. That's what I have to say to that. You got me feeling emotions with this conversation. That's wild though. They're presenting, that's so wild what you kind of described there. I mean, children will offer each other cookies to get a look under the skirt. We can't do anything about it, right? But for me, it's not the right way to teach them that you're allowed to, etc. At this point, they should be taught that intimacy is something for you and you only, unless you're old enough. But as a child, you need to learn that's nothing you share with everyone just because you want to. Yeah, I agree with you. Kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to have exploratory views and ideas and curiosities. That's what kids are. That's the imagination of a kid. But to present as a adult, an older figure, to willingly, it's not that they're only presenting, they're creating the situation for it. So if, like what you said, if a kid presents a cookie to get a peek under the skirt, that's whatever, that's funny. But if a parental figure, an adult, is going to set up the situation for that to happen, for them to explore that is them pressuring, that is them adding guidance, that is them adding pressure to that situation for it to happen. So that's a completely different situation. They have now added stimulus. They have now added their own ideas and their own views and kind of pressure into the situation to make that happen and explore those things, as well as they're adding themselves to the situation. They are claiming that it will be safe because they are there watching, or whatever the F they're doing there. It's just, that is a weird situation, and I am with you. Get those kids out of that daycare and report that daycare. Report that daycare. Report them and save your kids. Save your kids. And daycares are breeding grounds. Daycares are places that kids get taken advantage of. This is a lot of bad things happen at daycares. And when I think about my time spent as a young kid at daycare, there's so many weird things that went on in daycare. When you put tons of kids for hours and hours and hours in, maybe it's in a backyard or in a basement without a ton of supervision, and it becomes Lord of the Flies. It's a strange thing. Kids will do strange things to each other, and a lot of mistreatment, a lot of bullying, a lot of whatever will take place. So babysitters and daycares are weird places. Did I read your first message? Hello, I'm looking for a channel full of no judgment, loving... I read your message about your personal situation. I just didn't want to share that out loud. I didn't, because I go and I post these, not the very first, the one, I read about your personal situation. I just didn't want to read it out loud because I go and post these streams to YouTube, so I don't want to share your own personal information like that that will be cemented in a platform. But yeah, I understand. So I guess what is the dilemma though? I don't see what the dilemma is with you having a situation like that. Is it just that you feel more strongly towards the situation? I would say it just gives you a better insight. It gives you better knowledge into the situation, potentially some of the potential dangers, because you have this personal experience or this personal trauma. I would say that's what that provides. I'm new here, so we have to learn how we communicate. Yeah. Where are you from? Jenska? Where are you from? What country? The situation was... Oh, you live in Germany. Nice. We got a German. We had someone from Portugal in the chat a little earlier. So you're from Germany. Well, also, if you look at... I mean, I don't want to get too... something went wrong with my encoder. I just want to check if I'm still live. Am I still live? Yes, I'm still live. If you look at... I mean, if you look at politically, if you look at Germany, if you look at... no jokes about... Hey, I'm German. I'm German. I have German in the blood, okay? I am... my grandparents are German, so... I am disappointed with Germany as well, my friend. Aren't we all? It's gone to shit. But most of Europe has gone to shit. Most of Western civilization has gone to shit. Canada is the same liberal BS that's going on in Europe. But it's that kind of thinking, top down, that's pressuring younger and younger kids and exposing younger and younger kids into this indoctrination, into this type of thing, this exploration of your sexuality, this gender studies, gender ideologies, this kind of thing. That's the system we're in right now. Yeah, you knew it. I'm not German. I'm from Poland. I just live here with my Mr. Burr. How did you know I was German? I'm part German. You did not know that. You did not know that. Part German. Yeah, I got some German in me. From Canada. I look German. I look German. Well, I do look like my grandpa, and he is the German one. So, that's funny. I look German. I'll take that. Let's go. Let's go for looking German. But no, I can understand your situation. I can definitely understand the difficulty of the situation and the pressure, because not only is it the pressure of maybe the friends that are trying to agree with the daycare system, but it's kind of the structure of our society currently. It's kind of who's in power, who's in charge, the governments, the ideologies. That's top down, and it's being pushed through education. It's being pushed through all the institutions, and it's reaching children in daycare. So I can sympathize with you. What brought me to talking about mental health online? What's your story, if you want to share? So, I'll give a little synopsis. When I was 18, I went through a very severe episode of mania and psychosis, which ended up me being hospitalized. I ended up in the psych ward for some time, and ever since then, the last 7 years of my life, I've kind of obsessed about learning about the mental health system, learning about psychiatry, and through I've been hospitalized 7 different times with different psychotic breaks, depressive episodes, different things. I've always wanted to learn more about the system, and I've always felt that how the system is set up, how it's kind of set up to demonize people, how it's set up to diagnose people and put them in a box. I've always felt that that's the wrong approach to looking at people with mental health and normal mental health emotions and human situations. So I've always felt that it's not the best approach to helping people and motivating people out of their situations, and kind of looking at my own situation, dissecting my own situation, and how I kind of helped myself out. I've always wanted to empower other people and help other people in the best way I can out of the same situations that I came out of. So in a sense, me doing these videos, me sharing this information is a way of me talking to my younger self. It's a way of me giving guidance to a younger version of myself that didn't have that guidance, but it's also a way of reaching and helping anyone else who comes across it so they have that information at their disposal. So that's why I talk about the mental health stuff. I'm sorry to hear. Was it temporary, or do you... Yeah, I have a diagnosis. I was diagnosed at 18, but I don't disclose the diagnosis. I don't talk about the diagnosis because I think it reinforces the diagnosis and it gives it more power. And I don't believe in being labeled as something. I don't believe in identifying with a mental illness. And I think that's a version of lowering yourself and kind of suppressing yourself into a version of you that isn't the best possible version of yourself. So I don't empower the diagnosis. I don't disclose the diagnosis. No, you're not pushing. It's all good. I'm open. I'm unapologetic. I'm shameless about it all. I just share kind of my mentality towards the thinking and how I think about the stuff. I hope my perspective gave you some comfort on your situation with your kids. Did you end up actually taking them out of the daycare? It's unfortunate that this is the power structure and the structures that be. This is how they set it up. They are targeting the kids, and it's disgusting. They're targeting the kids now, and they have been for quite some time. But essentially, that's how you build an army. If you want your ideology to win, going forward, you attack the kids when they're youthful. You indoctrinate the kids when they're young, and that's why they attack the universities, the institutions, the the public schools, the kindergartens, the daycares. They're attacking and indoctrinating the kids with the ideologies younger and younger, so it's harder and harder to escape that sort of thinking, and then everyone is merged into the same thinking going forward. I got a few diagnoses, and me and my friend started therapy at the same time. So every time we met, we talked about it, and it feels like we're collecting baseball cards. I did, but a few weeks later, he started school, so it was just fine. Okay, well, I'm glad you didn't have to deal with that situation too long, because it's frightening. And we have to the point in Canada that in the actual curriculum of public schools and in the education, a lot of that ideology, a lot of the gender stuff, a lot of the openness to the sexuality is being pushed in the public schools now. It's in the actual curriculum. So that is kind of frightening. And it is it's scary. It's scary, and I will not be sending my kids to those schools. I will not be sending my kids to those schools. I'll tell you that. It will not happen. Will not happen. It will not happen. So let's go check out this video that I found. And it's called Crazy Wise. And it's kind of about these it's about shamans of different cultures and about how people across the world view mental health in kind of different lights. So let's watch this and do some reactionary content throughout this. Let me get the volume going for you guys. The problem is that this guideline has to be done by every daycare. That's the problem. What time is it for you? Oh, they have it. So yeah, so they're mandating it. Yeah, it's disgusting. They're mandating that every daycare allow this to happen. That's disgusting. That's terrible. That's absolutely brutal. Like, what is the collective thought towards this type of thing in Germany? Like, do most of the parents think like, oh yeah, this is a normal thing? Or most of the parents on your side thinking, no, let's not allow our kids to go into rooms with strangers and explore their sexuality? What is the collective narrative towards this type of thing? It's 2:10 a.m. for me. It's about 2 a.m. for me right now. That's so scary that they're mandating that. That is terrible. That is terrible. You guys are under attack. Europe is under attack. And it is loud and clear. Loud and clear. Everyone understands it. So are the Canadians. So are the Canadians. So are the Canadians. Okay, let's go watch this video. I need to run to the bathroom real quick, and then I'm going to watch this video. All right, let's hop into this video here. See what it's all about.
At first, it was human rights issues that took me to tribal and indigenous cultures around the world. As a photographer, I wanted to bring viewers face to face.
I guess there's probably going to be a lot of nudity when I think about this video. There's probably going to be a lot of tits. As all tribal countries or tribal villages.
Face with the people who were struggling to hold on to their unique way of life and their traditional beliefs. I became fascinated with the remaining cultures that commune with the spirits of rivers, mountains, animals, and their ancestors. Crazy? When I was back home in Seattle, I met a young man named Adam.
I was 20. It was,
Yes, I am live.
4 days after my 20th birthday, I went nuts.
Very compassionate, be it animals, be it people. At a very early age, he was just really a happy baby.
Absolutely amazing. He's the funniest guy you would ever know. I don't know if you've seen that, but hysterical. Totally gifted athletically. He rode a two-wheel bike at 2. At 5, he got into karate.
He ended up as one of the youngest kids to ever get his black belt. I think he got that when he was 11.
So in high school when I met Adam, I was 15, he was 16. He had a cool red Jeep Wrangler and he wakeboarded and just really popular, outgoing, charismatic guy. Lots of friends, and he was always kind of challenging the status quo, so to speak.
He just knew what I was thinking a lot. I could be thinking of something completely random and he would know it and tell me. And I mean, it would weird me out. And I've heard that from multiple people too, other friends of his.
I moved to Florida to pursue professional wakeboarding. And in that period is when I experienced that.
See, when they talk about knowing what other people are thinking, it only works if... So there are things that can actually block it. Like if you are not quieting your mind and you're flooding your mind with songs and you're flooding your mind with constant stimulation and constant drama and anxieties and constant consumption of the internet, that process that allows you that intuitive feeling and knowing of like guessing what other people are thinking, it doesn't work as well if you're flooding it with stimulation from other things.
First depression.
July 22nd, 2004. That was the date. He started telling us a math equation that would solve all the family's problems. And it was a very simple one, but it made all sense to him, which of course to nobody else. It was terrifying. Totally manic or totally depressed.
The rage that will occur in a manic episode is so scary.
You know, it's not who we knew as Happy Adam, Funny Adam, and then you had this Adam, like that.
I was surprised to learn how many people in the U.S. will suffer from a psychological crisis in their lifetime. And like many of the shaman I met, the crisis happens mostly in their youth. I met a young woman in New York named Akaya, who also had one of these episodes in her 20s.
I didn't know what was happening to me. I felt like my whole world was just exploding, like I was going into a whole different reality that I knew nothing about. I was very afraid to walk down the street because I thought people were all focused on me and judging me, and I thought everybody knew. I had voices that would tell me to cut myself. It was like the voices were taking control over me. The visions were taking control of me. I was very sensitive to music, to sounds. I started to have very clear visions of dead people, like just appearing and watching me. So I felt like I had eyes watching me all the time. I started to see my deceased father, and he would show up in my room. And really, it was the scariest thing that I've ever experienced. I literally locked myself in a room for months. I took the light bulb out of the light fixture, and I became completely enclosed.
There was about a 3-day period of in my room writing equations and finding God in my notebook, and then finally my parents were like, "What you doing?" You know, and then I checked myself into a mental institution. That is not the place to get sane. They put me in this holding room.
That is not the place to get sane. Yeah, I agree.
And there was no door, and there was a camera on the ceiling, and I was just laying on this bed, and this little girl walked into my room, and she was just staring at me, just with this blank, bizarre stare, and I kept asking her to leave, and she wouldn't, and there was all crazy people everywhere, and they were able to just come into my room. I immediately felt in danger and scared, and so I just decided no, and we went back to my parents' house and just kind of tried to figure out what to do. They put me on Depakote, and then that just started the whole process of, oh, no, now he's crying all day, let's feed him this one. Oh, no, now he's barfing all day. Hey, feed him this one.
And we went from one doctor to another doctor and one prescription to another prescription.
He was on every medication, I think, made for bipolar.
And they always say,
sounds about right. You gotta taste them all. They say you gotta taste the rainbow. You gotta try them all. Lithium, Depakote, olanzapine, risperidone. What else is there? Lorazepam, Zyprexa. I mean, there's a list in front of me.
Well, every brain is different. Sorry if this makes you crap your pants. Maybe it'll work, maybe it'll make you kill yourself.
Or sorry if these medications make you hate your family members. Sorry if these medications make you hate all your hobbies, all your interests, make you less compassionate towards your family members, your partners, your friends. Yeah. I mean, no big deal, though. It's just a little side effect of the medication. It's just a little side effect. No big deal.
I mean, like the disclaimer on these pills, that's typically the first side effect, is suicidal thoughts. And that's what the doctor is giving you to feel better. I mean, it's crazy.
Hearing of the struggles Adam and Akaya were going through made me want to learn more. So I started interviewing experts in the field of mental health.
In the United States, we've come to believe in the chemical imbalance theory of mental disorders. So we believe that you have some known deficiency with a neurotransmitter, and the drugs fix that, like insulin for diabetes. It was a valid hypothesis that arose out of understanding of how the drugs acted on the brain, and then it was investigated and found out basically not to be so. I believed it. When I was a reporter, I wrote about it. Depression is due to low serotonin, schizophrenia is due to too much dopamine. And I called up some top researchers and I said, I just want to see the research that says you found that people with schizophrenia had too much dopamine, or you found that people with depression had too little serotonin. And I'll never forget the answer. The answer was, well, we never found that. I said, what do you mean you never found that? Oh, it's just a metaphor, but it's not really true. Well, no, not really. And I was stunned by that.
I am very much against the casual and careless use of medication that characterizes American society today. These medicines are very, very powerful in helping, but they can be very powerful in harming. Often the withdrawal problems will be worse than the original condition.
I can look at any clinic I've worked at, and if they've been in the clinic for 15 or 20 years, they've been on every category of antipsychotic in the process. And the truth is that they still have the same symptoms, they still have the same side effects, they still are operating at the same level. You know, they may have been hospitalized 5, 6, 10 times during that process.
We've been primed to believe that with medical research we can find the causes of things and that we can create these magic bullets that fix these problems. So it fit into that larger story of medical progress that we believe in. We've been embracing this paradigm of care now for almost 30 years, and we've seen the burden go up and up and up. And if you have an effective medical treatment for a disease, at the very least that burden of disease should hopefully stay stable or even go down. And we're seeing exactly the opposite.
I didn't know why I was here. I had no purpose. I didn't think I had any reason to breathe, and I didn't feel deserving of love, of anything. The first suicide attempt was I took a whole bottle of pills. The second attempt was me walking out of the house, headed into busy street traffic. I just wanted a car to hit me or a truck or just something to take me out because this time I wanted to really work. I always felt like I was the problem, and if I could get rid of the problem, everyone else would be okay. I decided to try to get some kind of help, and I was in the hospital for about 6 weeks. I was put on several different medications, heavy drugs, antipsychotics, and it really changed who I was completely. I had gained 70 pounds in the first 2.5 months. You know, I just felt drugged up.
I felt like a lab rat, and the side effects were just awful, absolutely awful. Vomiting all day. I couldn't leave my house for so long from just like these awful anxiety attacks, and like the thought of interacting with people would make me sick to my stomach.
I was the only one who he could be around.
She basically terminated her job and made it a full-time responsibility to take care of him.
It took 5 or 6 years to get him where he could go to work.
You go through the whole gauntlet from was I a good father?
See the metric that she gave? The societal metric of like what makes a person stable or makes them a contributing productive human to society. They go to work. They have to go to work. So that's the metric that they based him, that he wasn't healthy for 5 to 6 years because he didn't go to work. So that's the golden metric. Will the little worker bee go back to work and produce more honey for the hive? Will the worker bee go and extract their energy to get the quotas filled? That's the societal metric that we have. And that is what everything is based upon. Will the worker bee go extract the honey for the hive? And that's all it is. That's the only metric. So they look at that as, oh, he's healthy because he can go back to work. 5, 6 years it took him to go back to work. That's all that matters. Will he go back to work? Does he work? That's the metric.
Did I cause this? Did we do something as parents? And the pain that you see him going through and the inability to do anything to help it are the toughest things.
I had no idea who I was. I lost myself, my identity, my friends, my family. I lost everything.
After 4 years of horrible side effects, Adam quit all his meds at once, which I've learned is a dangerous thing to do. And then he did a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
I went there, a drug addict, alcoholic that hated everyone, and came back a sober, life-loving, vegan, complete health nut. Like, no one knew who I was.
There was an obvious major change in his serenity and his peace of mind.
He quit everything. He was a smoker, a drinker, pot, smoking, and the meds. And he went to that 10-day meditation, cold turkey on everything. I can't believe he did that.
Looking back at it now, I really wish that I would have known these things and tried the homeopathic meditative approach first, but it was just kind of like a panic, I don't know, put some medication in this kid and just hope for the best.
While doing a human rights story on Tibet, I had the rare opportunity to witness a young monk known as a Kutan go into trance and channel the state oracle of Tibet. The ceremony took place in a monastery near the Dalai Lama's residence. Shortly after they seated him, his eyes rolled back and he began speaking in a high-pitched voice. Suddenly, he collapsed, and as they carried him out of the room, I was left wondering what happened. 2 days later, I was invited to interview the Kutan. His name was Tupten. He was 30 years old at the time. He said he began having intense dreams, severe mood swings, hearing voices, and thought he might be dying. The older monks recognized he had the potential to become a Kutan.
다디 당보들이 적용한 주시스 적용 폐나 가서 건설다 시스 중부를 적용지 구신 예벌하다 건설 좀 구셔 개라 건설 매주 당도가 가네 근데 쉬는 니만 얘기 줄 근데 제가 남버다 다른 난다 좀 못들데 말해 빅빅빅도 내주 테스트 주무되게.
We're so locked into
Well, I'm glad there was subtitles so we could see what he said there. That was great.
Our mind and the rational world and the scientific world that
Sandra Ingerman.
When
I have some research and some studying to do after this video. That's okay. We are building. We are building the arsenal. Because there is a fight on our hands.
we have a spiritual experience, it can literally blow somebody's mind and they don't know what to do with it. And what's needed in...
It shatters your mind and shatters your psyche into a million pieces. And you're left trying to put it back together. You're trying to piece your mind and your psyche back and trying to figure out what happened. That's how it feels.
Instead of stigmatizing people and giving them labels, is to give people tools to learn how to ground and to work with these expanded states of consciousness.
For some people, they can be an opening to a deeper self-understanding, to deeper psychological knowledge, or to spiritual realms.
According to the research, the best place to be a schizophrenic in the world is not North America with all its pharmacopoeia. It's actually a village in Africa or India, where there's acceptance, where people make room for your differentness, where connection is not broken but is maintained, where you're not excluded and ostracized but where you're welcomed, and when there's room for you to act out whatever you need to act out, or to express whatever you need to express. And the whole community might even sing with you or chant with you or hold ceremony with you. Maybe find some meaning in your quote-unquote craziness.
Like what he said there, in our Western society, we have a way of demonizing people who are singing like nobody's watching or dancing like nobody's watching. This carefree, this emphasis, this passion, this lust for life that is so exuberant, that is so, it spills out of their loins and to the surface, and a true love and passion for life that sometimes you feel like you need to sing so loud and scream and dance and express yourself to the fullest ability. But we stop ourselves because we know that we know how we'll be looked. We know how we will be looked and viewed as. We'll be looked at as a crazy person, will be looked at as insane. And people will be like, lock that person up, lock that crazy person up, put them in the psych ward. Look at the crazy drug addict dancing and singing carefree. That's how we look at the free people in our society. So when he says people need to express that and not hold that within, we need to find outlets. We need to find expression through art, through talking, through speaking, through exercise, whatever it is. We need to find ways to express that energy, that love, that expression, or else it'll turn inwards and it turns detrimental.
As our film progressed, we began hearing from people who identified themselves as survivors, meaning survivors of our mental health care system. Many had come out from...
Wrong way to look at it. Don't see this, the negativity, see the pity? We looked at ourselves as survivors. We survived the system. It's just like, no, wrong mentality. Wrong mentality. You didn't survive the system. It's like the pittiness is, we've had enough of the pittiness. We don't need the pity. That's not what we are. We are strong, we're independent, we're creative, we're futuristic, we are visionaries, we are dreamers, we are people that go out into the world and change the world. We bend the world to our will. We bend the reality to our reality. We're not survivors. We're not people to be pitied. We're not people to feel sad for and feel empathy towards. That's not what we're looking for. That's not what I want. That's not what this is about.
The shadows of their diagnosis and labels by meeting each other online to share their experiences and to form support groups. Will Hall is on the forefront of what is called the recovery movement.
When I first was hospitalized, I was feeling so desperate that I wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself. And I was hearing very, very aggressive voices, and I ended up walking to the Golden Gate Bridge, and I remember dragging my arm against the chain link fence, and my fingers were bloody. And when I got to the bridge and I looked down, I really felt like I needed to end my life. I felt like I was this complete failure. So I was in really bad shape, and the mental health system only made that worse. I went to the clinic in San Francisco. My therapist had recommended that maybe I should try different medications, and I was buzzed into the clinic, and I didn't know what was coming, but the door locked behind me. It was like there was this wild animal that they had captured and they were evaluating it, and I was put in restraints, and I was not resisting or arguing or being hostile. Finally, after doing all these tests, the resident psychiatrists who had been working with me came in and sat down. They said, okay, Mr. Hall, we have your results of this test. We have your diagnosis. It was this very solemn, ceremonial moment. And they said, you have a severe mental illness. You have a kind of schizophrenia called schizoaffective disorder. It combines the criteria for schizophrenia with the criteria for bipolar disorder. So it's kind of like this catch-all diagnosis that is sort of like winning the lottery of severe mental illness. And they said there's no cure. There's no cure for this. You will be maintaining yourself on medication to manage your symptoms.
All mental health diagnosis, they stick with you for life. You have been spellcasted. You have donned the label. You have donned the diagnosis, and you will take it to the grave. That's what they tell you. That's when a doctor or a psychiatrist says, you have been diagnosed with this mental illness. You are then required to walk with that label to your deathbed. You will carry that. You will carry those problems with you.
We really recommend that you rethink some of your goals in your life. That moment was really like casting a spell on me. And they were...
Do you see that? I've never seen this video before. I have never seen this video before. You saw that. What did I say? Spell casting? What did I say? What did I say? What did I say?
In the process of transforming me from an ordinary, full human being into the second-class citizen of being a mental patient.
I interviewed a group of people that had been diagnosed for their mental emotional distress and asked each of them, what was your diagnosis?
Schizophrenia, schizotypal, schizoid personality, schizoaffective, bipolar 1 and bipolar 2.
ADD, dysthymia.
They love dishing out. They love dishing out the diagnosis. These are the psychiatrists. I'll be a psychiatrist. Diagnosis for you, diagnosis for you. Here's another diagnosis for you, a diagnosis for you, diagnosis for you, diagnosis for you, diagnosis for you. Some more diagnosis for everyone. Everyone gets a diagnosis. Diagnosis for you, diagnosis for the kids, diagnosis for the teenagers, for the younger kids, for the adults, for the older, for the veterans. Everyone gets the diagnosis and everyone gets the medications. That's the system. Everyone gets a card. Everyone gets multiple cards. Everyone gets as many cards as they want.
Depression and PTSD.
Borderline personality, they put autism, they put Asperger's, they put manic depressive. I didn't think I was that.
Manic depression, bipolar 1, and just one time schizoaffective.
In the era of the DSM-3, there were like 12 personality disorders, and I had 8 of them, and the perfectionist in me wanted to try and get all 12.
I learned that all these diagnoses come from a book called the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, published by the American Psychiatric Association. Over the years, the number of disorders has increased dramatically with each new edition.
The problem with DSM-5 is it took a number of...
We'll give a small insight into the absurdity of the DSM-5. In the DSM-5, what is the diagnosis for a... there's a mental illness. Let's see if it'll come to me. Catatonia? No. Let's see. What you're thinking of did not exist historically. There is no diagnosis in the DSM-5 for a modern DSM for a slave running away. No, they used to have a word. Claimed that enslaved black people who tried to escape were suffering from a mental illness. But there's a name for it. There's a name. What's the name? Drapetomania. That's what it's called. Drapetomania. Used to justify slavery. Labeled the desire for freedom as a mental disorder. So essentially when slaves on the plantations, they wanted to escape and they would run away to their freedom. If they captured these slaves, they would give them the mental illness drapetomania and deem them that they have a mental illness for wanting to escape and get their freedom and run away. So they gave them this mental illness of drapetomania. So this is the kind of stuff that comes from the DSM-5.
Normal aspects of life and pathologize them. Normal grief becomes major depressive disorder. Overeating becomes binge eating disorder. Temper tantrums become disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. It's taking the experiences of everyday life that are unavoidable, part of the human condition, turning them into medical disorders.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is basically a sophisticated way of not listening to people. You interview just so that you've heard certain keywords, you fit it into your framework, and then you've got a whole algorithm of treatments that you offer people so that when your colleagues and your supervisors ask you, what are you doing to this person, you're following the protocol.
If we used all these psychiatric tests on the healthy population, I doubt that anyone would avoid to get at least one diagnosis.
We think that there are people...
And that's the goal. And that's the goal, ladies and gentlemen. That's the big trick. Because if you can get everyone diagnosed, if everyone can fit into the DSM-5 and get a diagnosis, everyone gets medicated. And everyone on medication, that means pumping the money into Big Pharma. The more people take the pills, the more people take the medications, the more the money goes to the top, to the man upstairs. That's how that goes.
People who are normal over here. And then there's the pathological ones who have depression or anxiety or addiction or schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, ADHD, or any number of other conditions. What I see is a continuum. These traits, to one degree or another, are present in almost everybody. And it's a mythology to think that there's the normal and then there's the abnormal.
3 months into our filming, Adam asked to be interviewed. He had just started his 4th 10-day meditation retreat, and painful childhood memories began coming up. When he went to the retreat leaders and revealed his mental health history, they decided it was best for him to leave.
The first time I went to the Vipassana Center, I had a memory of when I was really young and just being in a bathroom. It was involving a relative. I'm just like dancing around. But I was molested as a child, and it was involving a relative. Once I realized my grandfather had molested me, I went to speak to my parents, and they didn't believe me. I'm losing my house, I'm losing my job, and I just walked away from all my bills, just looking into the abyss. And that's when I began believing that my mother molested me, my father molested me. My mind just, I think, it couldn't handle it anymore.
So if I have an unusual way of feeling and my emotions are really big and I'm having a hard time and the culture and my family doesn't support that, I can go off into a really isolated way and become very, very disturbed, alienated, isolated, more chaotic, more rigid, and you'd give me a label. And then we look at someone whose mind, that is their feelings, their thoughts, their behavior, is off. And then we say, oh, they have a bad brain. And then either you isolate them because you're afraid of them, or you give them pills or whatever you do, and medications are sometimes essential. But if you don't first start with communities of support, then of course the brain is going to stop functioning so well, because the brain is a social organ. Relationships are just as important as brain processes, and I feel very deeply that if we could make that clear to everyone, we could have a shift in how we actually take care of each other.
This is myself and my best friend Maya, and she was a huge part of my life, someone that I could trust, and we lived together, we moved to New York together.
We wrote together, we sung together, we managed an art gallery together, we created a business together, so we were very much a part of each other's lives.
During one of my lowest points, she didn't quite understand what was happening.
When I look at her, this is not the person that I had originally met, And then she was on medication when she was in that hospital, and it was changing her. By my analysis, and I may be clearly wrong, but I felt like she was being very manipulative. There was a day where she got out of the hospital and I met her, and I gave her money for travel, and I put her in a cab, I took her to lunch, and she was supposed to go to kind of like a group home, and she attempted suicide again. I couldn't be a crutch for her anymore. And for a year, I didn't speak to her. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done as a friend. And I think it broke her heart too.
I called her and I was experiencing some issues and really depressed, and I was like, I don't feel like I can live anymore. And she told me to get over myself. And
bad friend alert. Bad friend alert.
I just want to say, we've reconciled our relationship, and she's back in my life, and we've talked about this and held over these things. But that is the worst thing that you could say to someone. Another friend of mine understood what I was going through.
I remember actually talking to her on the phone and talking to her in person and smiling a lot with her and saying, this is not a breakdown, this is a breakthrough. It's kind of like literally breaking down a wall and going through another path to be that person that you're gonna be. And
let's go. Good mindset alert. Let's go.
Being willing to accept that people are going to reject you on some level, your own family, your friends, and I connected with that. I myself had attempted suicide probably 4 or 5 times in my lifetime, and it took me some time to figure out that feeling inside was about not wanting to be here the way that I was here, not wanting to be here.
We don't have enough people in our lives.
It's that intuition, knowing that what you're doing, maybe your career, maybe your job, isn't what is meant for you. It's the intuition telling you and knowing and yearning for what is right, yearning for the purpose, yearning for the meaning, yearning for something that will bring true love into your life and fill you with joy.
You look at it differently from a peer perspective and say, you know what, I've been through this. I know where you are. I've actually experienced myself. Someone that hasn't experienced this, it's very, very hard for them to see through it.
Sometimes the music, she's just like a lover, she'll try to lead you astray.
I've been living in my car for 3 months, or a little over 3. I have an incredible...
Good night. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. That was fun. I'm glad I got to talk to you. I hope you enjoy your nights. I hope to see you again. I will see you again. Bye now.
People in my life, and right as I lost my family, I found a brand new one that is incredible. This place, Soul Food Family, they are amazing. It is just a beautiful community of open-minded, loving people.
I think a lot of people would say that Adam was broken, and I don't view it that way. I think our culture is broken, not Adam. We say there's something wrong with you instead of actually addressing the fact that as a society we don't have the skills to be able to support somebody like that.
Wonder what the mantis really wanted when she ate her lover after sex in the garden. Do you think she missed him at all? Or did she miss him at all?
He seems to just tune right into what people are feeling. I don't think he knows how not to feel it for them. I think he'd be a great psychologist maybe someday, or work with kids, and he doesn't need to end up in the back of a car.
Guess I'll never know.
Being here and...
See, the thing with her saying he'd be a great psychologist, for him to be a psychologist, he'd have to go to school for all of those years and be indoctrinated and drilled into a certain path of thinking. And so then he fits the doctrine, he fits the curriculum and teaches that way and practices that way. So maybe how he naturally deals with people, how he naturally deals and interacts with the world, that would be beaten out of him during that long, grueling process of becoming the psychologist.
Finding that love and comfort and just the acceptance saved me. Without that, with just being in your head, having nothing other than rejection to what you're experiencing going on, is absolutely maddening.
One of the problems in this industrial society is that the so-called normal people, they don't want to admit that they're psychotic, actually. We live in a psychotic society.
Mass psychosis. Mass psychosis.
I'm sorry, we do. And what is meant by psychotic? Out of touch with reality.
Where does somebody who's in this delicate state, they're in a process. They're sent to prison, they're sent to jail, they're sent to a psychiatric ward, or they're chemically incarcerated, or they're homeless.
I'm not against medications, I'm not against hospitals, I'm not against doctors. I know many people who are benefited by medications, but we have a one-size-fits-all framework. We think that the issue is biological, the solution is medical and pharmaceutical, and we see it as objective science. It's not objective science.
And why? Why is that the system? We have to ask, we have to go further. We have to go a step further. Why is it set up that way? So everyone stays in the system. Everyone stays in the current structure. Everyone stays in the box, the cookie cutter. So people aren't off in left field. So people aren't blossoming over here and growing out of the cracks and producing new things and producing new infrastructure and producing new ideas. So the current structure collapses. It's about keeping the status quo. It's about containing, keeping people in the box, keeping the status quo at all costs. That's what the suppression is for. We have to ask. We have to go a step further. We have to ask why.
In Western cultures, it's assumed that if people hear voices or they have very unusual beliefs, there's meaning to those experiences. Only in the Western world have we developed this bizarre idea that hearing voices and having strange ideas has no meaning at all. It's just a symptom of these imagined illnesses that biological psychiatry has actually created.
While mentoring young photographers on the Navajo Nation, I met Morgan Yazzie. He said he had been having dizzy spells and hallucinations in his 20s, but tried to ignore them. They started to happen more frequently until he finally had what he called a stroke. His friend Sam Begay, a medicine man, did a ceremony for him and told Morgan he was ignoring a calling to be a medicine man. And I've heard this several times before. If you ignore the calling, there's a good chance that you could get sick and possibly die. Many say it's a transformation waiting to happen that has to be dealt with.
I couldn't go into the bathroom to shower because people were smoking crack. I felt like that I was about to harm myself again, and I didn't want that. And so I called the nurse's station, and one of the nurses said, come back, and we'll help you. I had an intake with the psychiatrist at the emergency room, and after him questioning me and seeing my records and seeing that I had been in the hospital for already 6 weeks, he didn't believe me. He said, I'm going to send you home, that you don't need to be here. I walked out of the emergency room door. I had just filled a prescription bottle of antipsychotic pills, and right outside of the hospital, I took all the pills in the bottle. When I woke up, I was strapped to a bed. When I opened my eyes, I was just like, how am I here? Why am I still here? I couldn't believe it. But I am very, very grateful for that moment, because that's the moment I knew that there was a purpose for my life. There was a reason. I didn't know it, but I knew that there was some higher being, some higher force that wanted me to be alive. And I knew that I had to find it.
Yeah, I think what she said there is important. She turned to a higher force, something outside of her, some sort of a spiritual thing, a higher power, a god, something above her that allowed her to pull herself out of the negative situation, pull herself out of the hardships that she was in. And I think that's incredibly important to the healing process, and pulling yourself out of the pits of despair and the pits of hell and depression is having a higher power, is having something outside of yourself that guides you, that guides your path, and allowing that guidance to really shape the direction of your life.
Born and raised in the city of rain, and life's raining, it's pouring, it's not letting up. I'm soaked to the core, but I'm...
Ever since I can remember with Adam, meeting him when I was in high school, is his confidence that was what made him very popular, and people loved having him around because he was free to be him.
Say thank you to the sunshine, thank you to the rain, thank you to the good times, thank you to the pain.
And then I went into the Army at 18, and that's when we lost touch. I just heard it through friends that something happened to Adam, and they said he was crazy, and they put him in a hospital, and I didn't really know what was going on, but I was worried for him.
To the sunrise, to the sand.
We started hanging out more and meditating together, and at that time, I was in a very dark place, and the things that he told me about meditation, in the quieting of your mind, and in going to that still place, because of the experiences I had.
Should I show you? You gotta pick up one of these. You go and get yourself one of these. Secret. It's our secret, okay?
At war, I was open. At this point, part of me still thought of him as unstable, that he was, as the doctors diagnosed him, he was using meditation as a means to cope with that.
I say thank you to the sunshine, thank you to the rain.
I would be like, well, he may be crazy or not, but I'm still his friend, and I'm going to talk him through this. But in that going along process of feeling that I was helping him, I realized that he was actually helping me.
In the shamanic traditions, you're not ever completely healed until you become a healer yourself. It's a way of the wounded healer. And as you heal yourself...
The wounded healer archetype. Let's search the wounded healer archetype. The wounded healer archetype is a concept from Carl Jung in later depth psychology. It describes a person who is able to heal, guide, or help others precisely because they themselves have been wounded. In short, the wound becomes the source of wisdom. Core idea: a wounded healer is someone who has experienced deep pain, trauma, illness, or crisis, does not fully erase the wound, transforms it into insight, empathy, and meaning, helps others walk paths they've already survived. They heal not despite the wound, but because of it. Carl Jung famously said, "Only the wounded physician heals."
What has been before a great source of pain and suffering now becomes a source of compassion.
People who've gone through psychotic episodes can come out the other end and say that changed my life.
Those openings or those things that we call psychotic breaks. You know, I think, why can't it be seen as a great blessing that I opened to something far greater? That was a holy, blessed moment that released either the angels or the demons so that I could access the deeper essence of who I really am.
The Buddha wouldn't have been enlightened. Jesus wouldn't have been Jesus without going into the desert for 40 days.
There's a kind of arc or narrative that wants to unfold in the psyche. And if an individual is given proper support, a person can actually reconstruct their life at a higher level.
I saw a flyer about Baltic Street. It said it was for people who had experienced emotional struggle and had mental health issues. Went there, I met a beautiful, beautiful group of people. And these people were telling me their story and asked me what was happening with me and my experience. And there I was able to record in their studio and get back to songwriting and making my music. I did some painting. I really got in touch with myself again. It was like the first time that I was able to feel myself through the cloud of the medication. Going to their support groups, I met a lady who offered to interview me for a job that was coming up. They hired me for the position. It was part-time starting out, and then about 2 months later, they hired me on full-time.
For people diagnosed with schizophrenia, if we take a Western construct for a second, the average recovery rate in the Western world, with all our sophisticated diagnoses and medications and highly paid experts, is about 1/3. The recovery rate in the developing world is about 2/3 on average. I find that kind of interesting.
How mental illness is constructed in different places in the world is very, very different. I believe myself, if I hadn't chosen to live in Nepal, I probably would have been medicated or institutionalized. I knew for myself that I couldn't be in a society or a culture that was high-paced. I needed to move down slower. So it was easier for me, by being an anthropologist, creating a lifestyle where I could be out in villages on agricultural time, not on industrial time. I met a lot of people that you would maybe seem crazy by our concepts of mental health. And there's something over there that's called crazy wisdom. In Tibetan medical tradition, illness is not just an individual, it's something larger, and it's related to the environment. So when we start to lose that connection with the environment in a very deep way, I think other illnesses start to manifest.
Mengatui is known as a powerful shaman and the leader of the Rawani tribe in the Ecuadorian Amazon. As hunter-gatherers, an intimate connection to nature is critical to their survival.
This is the root of this tree. This is somewhat of a grass that's growing up the trail here. And evidently there's a fruit of another plant. In this case, it's for respiratory problems. How they came upon this by trial and error over the centuries, I guess, is quite amazing.
Every 5 to 7 days, Mengatui goes into trance and takes on the spirit essence of the jaguar. It's a process called shape-shifting that he uses to guide his people. At the time, I looked at this with curiosity and skepticism. Now I wonder if these rituals could be a metaphor that helps the tribe connect to nature in a very deep and...
I think there's a certain level of belief that plays a part in this, similarly to how the placebo effect of medication, whether you believe it will work for you or not. I think some of these ancient traditions and more holistic approaches to life and being connected with nature it's a belief system that this is how it works and this is how the interaction to nature should work. But the people who grew up in those tribes, they've never had any exterior approaches. They've never had different thoughts, different opinions towards the approach of whether this is true, whether this works or not. So essentially they're indoctrinated in a sense to the way that they think things of the world interact, or how the world interacts with them and their traditions. So in a sense, it's their own type of living, it's their own type of indoctrination, but it's all they've ever known. So it's what they truly believe.
Spiritual way. I don't want to over-romanticize indigenous people. They're not free of mental health issues, and not everyone who has a crisis becomes a shaman. But they often believe that non-ordinary states, like hearing voices or having visions, indicate the person in crisis has a special sensitivity. A sensitivity that can actually be a gift to the community. Then they give that person guidance, meaning, and purpose. I believe that's something we can learn from.
Part of my goal in doing this content and talking about these problems with mental health and the narratives and the mentality towards things is I want to free people. I want to free people with the mental illness from the constraints, from this way of thinking, so they can prosper and ultimately they can help our society. They can help grow and blossom new ideas. They are the dreamers. They are the visionaries, but they are being suppressed and they are being constricted into a box and not being encouraged to believe that they can achieve great things. So essentially, I'm trying to free that type of thinking and free the people that are being suppressed by the system and the narratives that hold people down.
Hey, Philip.
Hey, Adam.
I got jumped.
Oh, no.
My jaw is shattered on both sides.
Hello.
In the middle from the rock.
Oh, my God.
Shattered on the sides from their feet and their fists. And then my mom let me know yesterday that she has cancer.
Adam flew back to Seattle the next day, and Ron offered to let him live in his garage.
They turned on you, one of them?
Yeah, they all just started hitting me, all from every side of me. Dropped to the ground and just shielded myself and told them that I didn't want to fight them. And they continued to just beat me. And one of them picked up, I guess, a rock that was guessed to be about the size of my own head and just...
Stream is good so far. I've been live for about 3 hours now. And now I'm just reacting to this... this video here about kind of the narratives of mental health and how different cultures and different societies around the world view different mental health situations. So it's been going good.
His head and just spiked it down on my face, and it fractured my jaw in half right here. It just totally, all the way to the teeth, just separated this. And after they smashed the rock on my face, then I guess one of them was coming at me with a knife to stab me. While I was unconscious, my friend Rico shielded my body with his own. We were sitting on Baby Beach in...
Oh, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I'll usually be talking about mental health stuff. I like talking about the unconscious mind, the psyche, different states of consciousness. I like exploring that type of stuff. So if you like that stuff, if you're interested in it, you've come to the right place. I am from Canada. Where are you from?
Lahaina. We had a fire going. We weren't supposed to have a fire going. It was a magical place for a minute. And everyone just went in the circle of sharing how they ended up being homeless right next to me. It was amazing to hear how broken all of these people were. And how broken I was. And that was...
Oh yes, Canada is beautiful. Oh, you're from Virginia. Well, hello, neighbor. You're a little southern neighbor. You are Big Brother downstairs, I like to call you. I call America Big Brother. You are the Big Brother downstairs. The heavyweight champion of the world in the basement. I have been streaming for maybe like a month and a half. Not too long. Just really getting going on my streaming career. Getting started on the talk show, being live.
What brought us together and what was making us all stronger. And it was just truly incredible. These people that had absolutely nothing were the people that were helping me. It's so good to, yeah, that's all I can really think right now. One second. The following day after being assaulted, my mother called me to tell me that she had terminal cancer.
Like having a good logo, banner, overlay, or some animations, you know, it really makes a good impression on viewers. To show you what I've done and some of my ideas. Sure. Do you want to message me on Discord? How about that? Show me your stuff on Discord. Send me a message on Discord. I'd love to check out your stuff.
And was gonna pass soon. And so that was incredibly devastating. I can't be there for her. I wish that I could, and I want to, you know, love her the best way that I know how, but without my family's acceptance, I have nothing to give them, because I literally can't. There is so much about me that is not accepted in my family. The majority of what makes me who I am is not accepted. Take medication, you're crazy. That's all they will say to me.
Often families would come and they would...
Yep, and you have to fight that. You have to fight the structure. You have to fight the system.
Have an education on what the symptoms of bipolar disorder are, for example, or they would know the symptoms of schizophrenia, but they weren't educated on seeing the strengths in their relative and noticing the things that their relative is really great at and pointing those out. They weren't educated on how to have hope for recovery. There's sort of a continuum of involvement. There's like neglect on one end of a continuum, and then there's overprotect on the other end of the continuum. And sometimes families kind of oscillate between the two. So they'll be really protective, overprotective, overprotective. No, you must do this, you must take your meds, you must, this idea of everything the relative needs to do to stay well. And then it's, you know, big eruption, so much fighting, crisis, and then they just swing to neglect. And it's human nature, it's frustration, it's a lot of things, but then neglect is like, you know what, you figure it out. I'm done, get out of my house. You just figure out the whole thing yourself, I'm not doing this anymore.
They want to fix that person they love, but they don't know how. Because in fact, it's not easy, and there is no obvious answer.
We don't do this in isolation. We do this in relationship. Healing is about relationship with our psyche and with each other, with the natural world. Being socially marginalized and psychologically vulnerable is usually characterized in the West by lots of suffering.
This is in kindergarten. Although I'm smiling, in my eyes I see sadness because this was around the time when my father started molesting me. So it's a bittersweet picture. I was really confused about the world, about me.
about was
it's pretty
about
heavy.
the presumed genetic origins. I was never asked about the violence and abuse and history of trauma that I've been through and that my family has been through.
When I was a beginning psychiatrist, there were still...
Yes! Stanislav Grof. The man. Let's go.
Kind of two schools. There was the uncovering and the covering. Covering was you use just suppression of symptoms. The uncovering was you do something, some process, psychotherapeutic process, depth psychology and so on, trying to go to the core, to the underlying reason. And now what we see more and more, for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the influence of the pharmaceutical companies. You see more and more shift towards trying to solve everything with this suppression of symptoms.
What becomes suppressed is our authenticity, our emotions. And then we become 25 and 30 or 35, 40, and we don't know who we are. And somebody asks us, what do you feel? You say, I have no idea. So then it becomes not our first nature, but our second nature, to suppress our feelings, to lose touch with ourselves, and to suppress our gut feelings. And then we pay the cost later on in the form of addictions, mental illness, or any range of physical illnesses.
This photo was a beautiful, beautiful time. I had just given birth. I was married, and I was just so happy. I had custody of my children, and it was a lot of pressure for me now being single, and so I became really, really depressed again. I started to treat my children differently. I always wanted to be the best mother that I could be. So when I found myself doing things like yelling and lashing out, it wasn't right, and I became depressed, and I said, I have to leave. I have to get away because they don't deserve this.
Living in the car, I mean, it's nice. I have my own little meditation pod. I think a lot of people would imagine this to be miserable, but it's...
My own little meditation pod. I like that. I have my own little meditation pod.
It's not that bad. Like, this was given to me, this car was given to me. It's so hard to even figure out if I should complain or celebrate. I wake up and meditate and try and get over whatever nightmare I woke up into.
So he went full, and we talked about this a little earlier in the show, but after psychosis, after spiritual awakening, sometimes you start to question everything. And you can start to ask the questions of, why do I work? Why do I need money? Why do I do this? Why do I have a house? Why do I have these materialistic objects? Why does the system work this way? And you go, why? And when you ask why questions, you only get more why questions. And they keep going further and further. And you can end up completely detaching from all materialistic objects and yearning for more of like a simplistic life. And kind of reverting back to more of that like 80s, 60s hippie vibe is kind of what can happen when you go through very spiritual moments, which is clearly what kind of happened here.
The voice in my head that tells me to kill myself, to kill other people, it's just chaos. I walk to town.
Oh, this kind of reminds me of a clip. Let me pull it out real quick. The voice in my head. Naruto. Jugo in jail. let's see if they have the clip. They go and rescue him from jail, Sasuke. And he's in the jail and he's like, I will kill the next person who opens the door. I will not kill the next person who opens the door. I will kill it if it's a man. I will kill it if it's a girl. Okay, I don't think I'll be able to find the clip. But that's what that reminded me of.
And hopefully sell weed. It's about 3 miles to soul food, I'd guess. And that helps me ground and breathe and gets my heart up. Go and try and get what I need to survive and then come back. I'm amazed that I am alive for how close I was to jumping off of a balcony. 3 years ago, I was completely sober, vegan, didn't smoke, and active. I mean,
And now, how would you describe yourself?
Just a shit show. Like an alcoholic, a drug addict, nicotine.
Not alone.
Let's skip the whole little crack smoking thing.
Many of our homeless suffer.
Might not have been crack, might have been weed.
From mental disorders, and it seems our jails have become our new asylums.
Prison bed can be $50,000 to $100,000 a year. It's more expensive to put someone in prison than Harvard tuition. It's much less expensive to provide housing and to provide adequate treatment. The best place to handle psychiatric problems is in the community. And the problem was that the funding for all this has just disappeared.
This is the one business where we're supposed to be spending time with people. The kingpin is talking and understanding and learning and listening.
If you talk to patients, for example, with schizophrenia, and although they might tell you many strange things, that they might think they are Napoleon or Jesus, if you show them respect and talk to them, it has an effect. They need less medication. They need less forced treatment.
The solution that is offered by our society is a Band-Aid. It really isn't a lasting solution.
During the time we've been filming Adam, he was trying to qualify for any type of housing through various local and state agencies. But up to this point,
The truth is that somebody with schizophrenia is far more likely to be a victim of violence than perpetrate it.
They're the contemporary leprosy in the sense that Aurora or Tucson or Newtown, they cause more stigma in.
I also have this idea and opinion that more so in women with mental health issues, due to more of like an openness or more of a vulnerability to maybe not understanding social cues or social awareness as well as maybe some people do, they are more likely to fall victim to sexual crimes, sexual harassment, because of not understanding social cues or having more of a heightened sense of vulnerability due to their openness and kind, compassionate, loving self. So I think that goes on a lot as well.
24 hours, then anybody can think of decreasing in a lifetime.
I have had a serial killer in my head. I feel like what I'm experiencing is the integration of a fragmented personality that I've had my entire life. It's like I'm waking up the forgotten me. And it's the scariest thing in the world.
The inner demons are talking. The inner demons want to come and play.
I rarely express, even to myself, when these thoughts occur, I suppress them.
and this side of you over here is the happy Adam, the part that everybody loves that helps them with this or that.
He lives here.
He lives in your heart.
Yeah.
And then the shadow is up here.
By the time my heart gets over here, it says some crazy things.
And they scare you.
Yeah, I actually forced myself to listen to it and write it. And I would like to read that. Wake the fuck up, cocksucker. Wake the fuck up. I wish you were dead. I will fucking kill you and everyone that you think you know.
Whoa.
This is the place where evil thrives. Fucking kill yourself.
Whoa.
You need me. Your father hates you. You betrayed me. I leave you alone for 2 fucking minutes and you get fucked. Literally. You pathetic, incompetent fuck. How the fuck can I trust you? I am the only one with any fucking balls. Step down and I will show you what pain is. I don't want to read any more of this.
In a completely different way. He might have been told that he was gifted with sight, but that sight needs to be employed and deployed within a certain tradition where there's teaching and there's guidance, because it's too much for the individual ego to handle. Now, in the Western world, there's no such framework for that.
I met Namid in the very remote Darhad Valley. At 70, she had an active healing practice, working day and night, seeing people one after another during the time I stayed with her. One night, while going into trance to help a woman who was having trouble in her pregnancy, she collapsed. Then she got up and kept going. When she was about 12 or 13, she started having intense dreams, hearing voices, and feeling confused and frightened. She would often go into the forest alone and be gone for days, and her parents were extremely worried. Her grandfather, who was a shaman, recognized these traits in her and began mentoring her. While making Namid's portrait the next morning and looking into her face, I thought of her devotion to her patients and how much time and energy she gave as a healer. I was reminded how important our relationships are to the healing process.
See, we need to take that language away. Patience. To her patients. That's a medical term. Patience is a medical term. To her family, to her kin, to her people, not her patients.
Peers are taught to meet other peers where they're at. And a lot of time in other medical or clinical settings, you have this hierarchy. But in peer work, it's almost like talking to a friend. It's like saying, I've been through this, what have you been through? Share your story with me. I really truly value my life now. And I have a focus and awareness that I didn't have before.
What we're seeing happen in the US and internationally is a grassroots democratization.
See, I have this internal conflict right now because my doctor kind of wants me to do peer support work. She wants me to go and kind of get me set up to potentially become a peer support worker. And it's not that I don't like the idea of that work and that there wouldn't be meaning and purpose in that work. But the idea that I'm struggling with is that would it be more beneficial for me to spend my time and energy focusing on doing the show and outputting content to reach a larger audience of people that it may help? Or is it better for me to go and do the peer support work every day and spend my time with an individual? So it's kind of, what kind of trade-off would there be? But when I look at the peer support work, I look at acquiring information. I look at acquiring experiences, way to communicate with people. So overall, I do think it would be beneficial, but it's just, what are some of the trade-offs, and can I take stuff from peer support work and bring it to the show and help help larger audiences?
Of mental health. We have lost touch in our medical system from some of the simple needs that people have for connection, the simple needs that people have for community. And because the mental health system isn't providing it, people who've been in the system are starting to provide it for ourselves.
Today's session is about finding strength after trauma. As a survivor of childhood trauma, as someone who was sexually abused by a family member, I can say that I'm a survivor, of trauma, and I know that I'm not alone.
It's very, very important that we have storytelling from people who've lived through psychosis and who've discovered alternatives to medications and alternatives to diagnosis, because that's really the expertise.
Your story is important. You are unique. Own your title, trauma survivor. Find your strength.
Come on, Echo.
My mother, now she's facing death. Me sharing my spiritual side with her, she was open to it. And it was amazing. And she really did listen to me. And it was one of the first times in so long that I had been able to share my heart with someone in my family. It's been really intense on the family. It's been really intense on me. I see the death of my mother being a catalyst to bring a whole lot of necessary love and appreciation into my family. And that was what she was about. The first time I was diagnosed insane, I had something to say. And I've looked back at the things that I had to say, and I don't think any of it's insane. It's a very damaging thing to not be able to trust your own perspective. When you can't do that, that really fucks you up.
What we do in the West is to constrain individuals. People start to manage your experience at a level which takes your agency away, robs you of your autonomy, makes you feel like they don't trust you. That's not what you want to do.
Once I internalized a mentally ill identity, once I came to see myself as having this disease living inside of me, I stopped trusting in my intuition because it was sick.
Trust your intuition. The intuition is the superpower to the universe, okay? Don't think logic and reason is the highest tool. Logic and reason is not the top of the hierarchy in figuring out solutions and problem solving. The intuition is, and you need to train and trust the intuition.
The only way to find myself again and to get back to an authentic sense of self is to feel all of this and to listen to it and to explore it and to not be afraid of it. So that's what I started to do.
I traveled to the Amur River in eastern Siberia, where the word shaman originated. There I met Linza, a very respected healer for over 60 years. She was forced to practice in secret for decades until the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989 and was just one of two remaining shaman in her Nanai culture. 9-year-old Sasha is Linza's neighbor in their village. Her grandmother told us that Sasha has fainting spells and hears voices, both considered signs of shamanic potential. Unfortunately, just 3 weeks after my visit, Linza passed away, leaving Sasha without a mentor. At the time, it seemed I was witnessing the disappearance of an age-old tradition in this corner of Siberia. However, as I later discovered, shamanism is re-emerging in very unexpected places. Akaya met a South African shaman known as the Sangoma living in Baltimore and began working with her.
She told me that I was called to be a healer, a shaman. And I had been feeling that inside of me, and a lot of times we need confirmation. And so that was my absolute, as soon as she said that, I was in tears. She said, her exact words were, "You should be doing what I'm doing. You know, you have priesthood responsibilities. You should be doing what I'm doing." I get on a packed bus for a 4-hour trip to Baltimore, Maryland, where my Baba is my teacher. And during that time, I'm just really meditating and just preparing myself for everything, because it is a lot of intense work, beautiful work, but very intense work.
Whoa!
The Sangoma training involves humbling yourself completely to your teacher and to your ancestors.
What you have to do as a Twaza is submit yourself, your ego, all of your beliefs. You have to sit on the floor. You have to eat with your hands. You have to surrender to your ancestors.
A Twaza is an initiate to become a traditional South African healer.
During slavery, we lost a lot of who we were. But what you can't take from a person is what's in their blood. So if it's in your blood, it's going to be in you. The only way that she received the calling is because someone in her family was a traditional South African healer. Her ancestors that are in her blood, that they're saying, wake up, wake up. They're waking her up to them to say, you are our child, and this is how we want you to live.
At the start of my initiation, I experienced all of the problems that I was having, all of the anxieties and depression, and I was being pushed, and I was hurt.
Did you hear that? Whoa!
This is how we want you to live.
At the start of my initiation, I experienced all of the problems that I was having, all of the anxieties and depression, and I was being pushed, and I hurt, and I cried, and my body ached. The medications drown you out. They mask you. They put a fog over your problems, and you really aren't in touch with yourself. You don't feel things. I've had to face all my fears, all the things that made me upset and angry, all the people that I've hurt. I've had to face it and be with it before I was able to release it and let it go.
Adam started turning a corner and moved into an apartment with a friend. It had been 3 long years since he was turned away from the meditation center and alienated from his family.
I had an opportunity for about a year to be an autistic counselor, and that was really powerful for me. I know music therapy is a practice that more and more people are looking into.
Yeah.
Maybe I should be one of those people.
Yeah.
Yes. My mind was just interpreting everything as hate and rape, and that's all it knew at that point. And you know, and that's what became this evil personality in my head that has gotten a lot better. Actually, my dad just called me before this interview and was saying he originally just wanted to be by himself, and now he wants to come hang out. I think he's coming over here. We're gonna have beers. Merry Christmas. That makes me so happy. That's magic. Now he's coming over to my place. I have a place for my dad to come over to. And he's down. And he's actually down to talk to me. Yeah.
Ikaya has come a very long way. When she first came to me, she was very unstable, all over the place, not sure of herself, confused, and just not clear about who she was.
But like, okay, finally, I know why I'm on this earth. I know why I'm so sensitive to all these things and energies. I understand why I have visions now. I understand, and I had to go find it. You tell your therapist or your psychiatrist and they say you're ill. They say you have borderline personality disorder. You have chronic depression. And these are the drugs that you need to take. This is what's going to help you. But nobody told me this is a spiritual matter. And you are gifted. And now it's time for you to hone these gifts. And it was just so amazing. I'm so grateful.
So even if you look at this stuff as like delusion, even if you're like, well, she's just delusional, it's delusional thinking, whatever. But at the end of the day, if the delusion that you create in your mind, if it gets you to a place that's healthy, if it gets you to a place where you're happy, where you have purpose and meaning, ultimately, does it matter how you get there? Does it matter how you get to the happiness? Does it matter how you get to the pot of gold? Even if it's through delusion? See, like, I don't think it matters. And I'm not saying that she's delusional, but I'm saying to the people who have that type of narrative or that type of mindset towards shamanism or different approaches to the mental health system.
Because it has changed my life. I know who I am without a doubt, 100%. I know who I am, and it is the best feeling ever. I have a purpose and I have a reason to live. And the reason is the best reason that God could ever give is to help humanity, help other people that have experienced the things that I have experienced, to connect with Earth, to connect with this universe. It is magical. And I am so grateful.
It's part of being human to discover meaning in our tragedies, to discover meaning and purpose in the pain that we go through, and to look beyond the specific suffering that we're going through and fit it into the larger story of our lives. That's just human. If you ask anybody how they survived an extreme tragedy in their life, most people are going to put spirituality at the center of what helped them. There's no difference for mental health problems. We have to recognize that people's spiritual beliefs and their spiritual resources and their religion are often central to what give them the strength to make it through.
The paths are many. Some find it through religion. Sometimes religion is an obstacle to that. In fact, often it is. But it may be a conduit to it as well, depending on who and how and where. There's this spiritual nature that if we ignore, we're actually ignoring an essential part of ourselves. Human beings have certain needs for meaning, for contact, for community, for acceptance, for authenticity, which is the capacity to feel what we feel and to be in touch with our bodies and to express what we feel when we need to.
And the shamanic traditions, there are maps and there are compasses that you can use to guide you through your dark night of the soul. So you're encouraged to explore the depths of the psyche with all of the despair and suffering, and to not get stuck there.
Let's go and search Dark Night of the Soul meaning. Dark night of the soul is a spiritual and psychological term for a period of profound inner darkness, loss of meaning, and identity collapse that often comes before deep transformation. In simple terms, it's when the old version of you dies, but the new one hasn't been born yet. Where the term comes from, coined by St. John of the Cross, 16th century mystic, originally described a spiritual crisis, not a mental illness.
Use that as a point of initiation to open you up to lucidity and a sense of personal destiny.
There is something so magnificently touching and moving to see how people handle trauma, because you see the splendor of the human spirit for those who don't allow themselves to be victimized, but become stronger and more committed to making sure it doesn't happen to someone else.
What I would like to see is that everyone who goes through the kind of crisis that I went through is given an opportunity to explore what it might mean, to present them with the possibility that maybe it's not just a broken brain, maybe it's not just an illness, maybe this is not just something to hide and be ashamed of, maybe it's something to explore and learn from.
The film process has been a perfect storm of everything that scares me. The interactions with an older male, and also just the experience of cameras, of invasion, of allowing, sharing, every aspect of this has been like a perfect thing for me to get over trauma and like seeing, letting it, this has been terrifying in every way, but it's been also healing. Phil has helped me so much. Someone coming to me with an honest curiosity about my situation instead of an opinion. I hope that this film ends up showing people that they are okay.
What helps all of us stay well? Well, it's shelter, it's exercise, it's good food, it's meaning in life, it's socialization. And that immediately breeds a sense of optimism, a sense of hope that you can have a breakdown, but you can recover from that with the right sort of environmental care. How do we as a society provide those things to people? How do we build up that foundation and not just put a Band-Aid over it, but to really build a healthier society for ourselves?
I just think it's really important for people to find some spiritual path. It doesn't have to be shamanism. It could be yoga, it could be Tai Chi, it could be meditation. Some spiritual path that opens people up to their own creative impulse and to their own spiritual power.
There are millions of varieties of therapy and alternative holistic treatments, but in the mental health system, really all we offer is traditional psychotherapy kind of stuff and drugs.
Now is the time for us to be pressing for alternatives, for new ways of looking at things, for funding peer support groups, for getting options out there, for bringing the holistic medicine framework into mental health care. Bring them out of the closet, and that'll help fuel a movement that says, look, we're out here, we're not alone, and then we can build a movement that can make change happen.
Gather the soldiers. Gather the troops and build your army. That's what we must do.
I want to apologize to my children because of my depression, because of being, without shelter sometimes. I abandoned them for months at a time. I wouldn't call, I wouldn't be in contact. They wouldn't know what was going on with me. I'm so blessed that their stepmother even called me one day and said, hey, we have space for you. How about you come out to California? It's a miracle, to be in a space where I can come and co-parent with my children, and that all three parents in the household can get along and agree to do our best for our children. I've been away from my children for 10 years. The suffering that they've been through, I have to have complete compassion for that. And it's going to take time for us to build up a certain level of trust.
She's a very different type of person, but different in a good way. When she's been going through this process, she's been away from technology and everything else that other people have been around. I think it gave her time to find herself and figure out who she really is.
Miles did come to me and ask, Mom, what is it that you do? And I said, honey, I help people heal. I help people get better.
The fact that I falsely accused my father of molesting me, and the fact that he was able to forgive me and still have love for me, It's just incredible to me. I spent a lot of time screaming and punching things and just letting out pent-up emotions, crying, the whole spectrum.
That's a nice waterfall. Nothing better than a nice waterfall. Come on.
And the more that I would do that, the less intense those voices were becoming.
Oh, yeah.
I just really had to let it all out and not judge myself for it. If my mom were here right now, she would be so happy. The garden was something that was her focus. I mean, when she passed away, our family was in shambles. And if she's somewhere right now, she's smiling.
While following Adam and Akaya's stories, I often thought of the transformational process that takes place in indigenous and shamanic cultures. And I wondered, what if a mental health crisis was viewed as a potential growth experience instead of a disease with no cure? What if everyone was supported and guided to seek meaning and purpose in their suffering? If we took more time to be with...
See, like that looks crazy. I'm not like...
While following Adam and a story...
Shaking the little thing on the beach looks crazy. But see, sometimes you have to do what feels right. You have to do what feels right. You have to do what feels natural, and you just have to let it out. If it's singing, if it's dancing, if it's shaking the little whatever that is, if it's shaking whatever that is, you gotta do it. But that looks crazy. I'm not gonna lie. But you know, you just gotta embrace it. You gotta embrace it.
Considered to be mentally ill, we might find there's actually a relationship between crazy and wise.
Well, like, what's the quote? There's a quote. And it says, like, genius and insanity are next door neighbors, and they often borrow sugar from each other, I think is the quote. But anyways, that was an interesting little I feel like I yell with those on because I can't hear myself, so I end up yelling. But I think that was an interesting little documentary. I think there was lots of good stuff in there that we went over and talked about, and we talked about some kind of, not we, but the show talks about restructuring, honestly, the entirety of the narrative of mental health, the mentality towards mental health, ways in which you can heal from mental health. And honestly, I think it's a great approach that they have, but I think they need someone to come and put the hammer down. They need someone to come in with some ferocity, some intensity, some ferociousness, and really spark that type of thinking and that type of movement. I think that's where we go next. That's where we go next. But anyways, that was a good show. We've been live for 4 hours. I think there's lots of good stuff in there. But on that note, I will be tuning off. I will be back live tomorrow night, so I hope to see you guys then. If you're still here, follow along, go drop a subscription, maybe go like the video, comment down anything you want me to talk about, any stories, any questions you have. I'm always looking for things to talk about, so let me know what you think. And until tomorrow night, goodbye, guys.